Old Man Logan is an alternate universe in which Logan is the last surviving hero because he can never die. It's a world-famous storyline and one of the favorite alternate realities of Marvel, so today we're going to bring you that story.
We open on Logan, now an old man riding his horse into his small rundown farm in California. He's in charge of this land, and he has a family, a wife, and 2 small children. Things are not well for Logan. This is not a happy life, but a life with struggle where Logan pays rent to the Hulk gang, and the rent is due. With nothing to pay this month, Logan refuses to sell his children's toys to pay this rent, so he decides that he will face the Hulk gang and try to reason with them. Perhaps get a pass on the rent this month, but the Hulk gang does not do reason. And when they arrive on the farm the next day in the Fantastic car, they bully Logan and they run him down. They already know that he can't pay the rent. A confrontation is brewing, and suddenly Logan pops his claws and he fights back against the Hulks. Except he doesn't. It was just a daydream, a fleeting thought. Logan has become a pacifist, and he swore to never unleash his claws again. And instead, the Hulk gang pummels Logan into the ground. They leave him a bloody mess, and they tell him that he owes double next month. Otherwise, his family will die. Lying in his bed, Logan's healing factor helps mend the wounds, and he's paid a visit by one of the old Avengers, Hawkeye, who is now blind. But even a blind man can see the trouble that Logan is in, and he proceeds to offer the former Wolverine a job to help Hawkeye deliver a package to New Babylon on the east coast of the United States. If Logan's willing to help him, he'll pay him $500, which should presumably cover his debt to the Hulk gang. Logan agrees to take the job, and the next day he says goodbye to his family and he gets on board the Spider-Mobile with Hawkeye, and they embark on an adventure to save Logan's family. Their journey begins by taking them through Northern California, where they encounter the Monoloids that live underground and have infested San Francisco. As Hawkeye tells Logan, these things are new and they've been sinking whole cities. He thinks that this is the Earth trying to take back what belongs to it. They begin by exploring an empty building for survivors when the Ghost Riders attack out of nowhere. Logan scrambles to get to the Spider-Mobile, but he's immediately attacked by a Ghost Rider gang member. The gang member shows no mercy as he beats the life out of Logan, egging him on. "Why don't you fight back?" And Logan tells his enemies that he will never hurt another living soul. Leaving Logan on the ground, Hawkeye has seen enough of this astonishing sight and he proceeds to shoot the Ghost Riders with arrows, murdering them where they stood. You see, Hawkeye might be blind, but he has an amazing sense of hearing. Logan is appalled by the violence from this one-time Avenger, but Hawkeye just looks at Logan in disgust and asks, "What the hell did they do to you, man?" And Logan replies, "They broke me, bub." The two eventually arrive at Hammer Falls, which is the #1 tourist attraction in America because, well, it's the final resting place of Thor's hammer. Even though they were simply planning to stop through the town, they're immediately approached by Ultron 8, who is now married to Hawkeye's third ex-wife, Tanya. Ultron 8 pleads with Hawkeye to go see her, and when they meet her, they learn that his daughter Ashley has recently formed a super team that has been captured by the new Kingpin. Hawkeye needs to rescue her, but Logan is only interested in going to deliver the package. Hawkeye offers to double his pay if he helps him rescue his daughter, and Logan reluctantly agrees, although he still plans on not using any violence to assist Hawkeye. He won't pop these claws. At Salt Lake City, Kingpin sits in an arena as he watches 2 of Ashley's teammates, Daredevil and Punisher, get eaten alive by a pack of raptor-like dinosaurs. As Fisk leaves the arena, Logan identifies where Fisk is keeping Ashley, and Hawkeye enacts a crazy plan where he uses the Spider-Mobile to simply drive into the building and rescue her. The Spider-Mobile can do whatever a spider does. As the car crashes into the prison, Hawkeye leaps out and kills all of the opposition in his way. And as he frees Ashley, the Kingpin walks in demanding to know what's going on. But before he can get an answer, the newly freed Ashley takes a shotgun and uses it to decapitate the Kingpin. As it turns out, Ashley was planning to take over the Kingpin's territory by killing the Kingpin. She had no intention of coming here to save people. Hawkeye's daughter has gone completely evil villain on her father, and she lifts the shotgun to bash in Hawkeye's head. But Logan uses the Spider-Mobile to drive into the building and rescue Hawkeye from his power-crazy daughter. They drive off only to be pursued by Ashley's newly acquired evil henchmen. And as Logan and Hawkeye make their escape, suddenly the earth opens up beneath them in an earthquake, and they fall into a dark and awful peril. The victims of the earthquake surround Logan and Hawkeye in darkness as they realize that they're surrounded by the Monoloids, and they're going to be eating them alive. Thankfully, our heroes are able to free the Spider-Mobile and climb out of the earthquake crevice, just like a spider can. Shortly after that, the two travel across the country without much more incident, and we see some of the horrible sights of this new world. Eventually, they find a calm moment to sit down for a drink at a small dive bar in Des Moines, where Logan nearly lets his claws let loose on a drunken idiot. He gathers his composure, and he storms out of the bar, and Hawkeye once again asks him, "What happened, man? What did they do to you?" This time, Logan says, "Sit down and I'll tell you." So you want to know why Logan hasn't popped his claws in 50 years? Why he is now a pacifist? It began in Westchester, where Wolverine was with Jubilee, and they were receiving distress calls from the Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D., and the Fantastic Four. It turns out that the villains had finally assembled, and they were attacking everyone at once. It's just at that moment that a large group of villains pop into the room, and they seemingly kill Jubilee. There are too many villains to count, not just mutant villains, but all of the famous Marvel villains all at the same time. This is it, the final showdown. Wolverine pops his claws, and he does what he does best. By eviscerating all of the big bads. He fights to the protests of the mutant children in the Mutant Academy, and he continues his assault on these supervillains as he begins a long, drawn-out battle with Bullseye, which ends with Wolverine punching his claws into his gut. As Bullseye dies in his arms, it's at that moment that Wolverine comes to his senses, and he sees that it is Jubilee dead in his arms. In the room with Wolverine is Mysterio, the Master of Illusions, and he says, "Did you really think that you could do this alone? Take down 40 superpowered villains? Talk about delusions of grandeur. But your friends? People who would hesitate? That's a different matter entirely." Just then, Wolverine peers over his shoulder, and he sees the room for what it really is, what really happened. All of his X-Men allies have died by his claws. After that, he walked off into the wilderness, and he found a train track where he laid down and let the train run over his neck and head over and over. And Wolverine died. Logan would never pop his claws again. Logan and Hawkeye continue their journey east the next day through Doomshead, Illinois, where a giant venom-infected Tyrannosaurus Rex attacks them in the Spider-Mobile. They try to outrun it, but it's so fast, and Hawkeye uses the secret gun in their car to shoot it, but it's ineffective. Obviously, it's venom. But it's just at that moment that a man dressed in a black coat whispers a word, and the Venom symbiote flies off of the T-Rex, and it collapses immediately. Before Logan and Hawkeye can ask any more questions, they're instantly transported to a strange facility, and it is here that they are greeted by a familiar face. The White Queen, Emma Frost, who looks surprisingly young because she mentally projects the image of her younger self to everyone around her. She has transported them to the Forbidden Quarter, which is the home of her husband, Dr. Doom. We find out that her marriage has preserved the 20 members of the mutant species that remain, as well as her old ally Black Bolt, the mysterious man who helped them with the T-Rex. After a few choice words, Emma has the Spider-Mobile fixed up and she sends them on their way, as Dr. Doom looks on. Shortly after departing from the Forbidden Quarter, our two travelers pass through the town known as Pym Falls, which, as they're crossing, they see why it's called that, and they reach their destination, New Babylon, which is overlooked by a giant statue of Red Skull. As they drive into the bustling city, Hawkeye finally reveals the true nature of his journey. Logan had suspected that their secret cargo was drugs this whole time, but as it turns out, Hawkeye was delivering something far more valuable than that. The two walk into a room where Hawkeye recognizes their contact, a man by the name of Tobias, and he opens the case to show Tobias that the package is intact, and still containing 99 vials of super soldier serum that they plan to use to spark a rebellion against the Red Skull. Just imagine it, 99 Captain Americas. As payment, Hawkeye asks only to join the rebellion as a hero, even though he's old and blind, and Tobias agrees. Hawkeye is ecstatic and he tells Tobias, "Man, this is like when they first let me join the Avengers. It just feels so good to be accepted somewhere." But at that moment, Logan is riddled with bullets by one of the men in the room, and Tobias pulls a gun on Hawkeye and he shoots him in the stomach. It was all a setup by Red Skull. All of Hawkeye's hopes and dreams for redemption are gone, and he says to the vile Tobias, "Do your worst." Then Tobias shoots Clint Barton, Hawkeye, right between the eyes. Meanwhile, over in the Capitol building of New Babylon, Red Skull remembers defeating his greatest foe, Captain America, as he stands in a room filled with the memorabilia of all of the departed Marvel heroes. As Tobias and his shield lackeys walk into the room, we see that Red Skull is wearing Captain America's uniform as some sort of sick tribute to his fallen enemy. Tobias then drops 2 body bags in the room and also has the super soldier serums and a suitcase of money that was going to be used for the whole operation. Just as Red Skull is complimenting them on a job well done, Logan rises from his body bag, still regenerating from the many bullet wounds, and he punches out Tobias and the other SHIELD members. Logan looks at Red Skull and says, "You're going down, Skull," and the two of them engage in a bloody fight. They throw punches back and forth, and Red Skull locks the room down so that they are in there alone and he can take out Logan by himself. Red Skull eventually picks up Black Knight's ebony sword from his trophy case, and just as he's about to strike down Logan, Logan blocks it with Captain America's shield. Logan, now armed with his legendary weapon, has the upper hand and he soon knocks down Red Skull. And without warning, and without mercy, he uses the vibranium edge of the shield to decapitate Red Skull, the first life that Wolverine has taken in over 50 years. Logan quickly has to find an escape from the rest of the soldiers that are in the compound, so he puts his hand on Iron Man's suit in the trophy case and he decides to use that against the soldiers. Then he sees the suitcase full of money and he grabs it and he flies out of New Babylon using what's left of the suit's power. It turns out there is just enough power to take Logan from New Babylon to within a 36-hour walk of his home in California. So, all is well. He's returning with 2 weeks to spare and the money so that he can pay the rent to the Hulk Gang and then live happily ever after. But when he gets home, he finds out the grisly truth. The Hulk's got bored. He walks into his home only to find his wife and 2 children murdered on the floor. It is then, with a resounding shtick, that Logan dies and Wolverine is born again. What happens after this is not pretty or subtle. It's just pure carnage. Wolverine does what he does best and he hunts down each and every member of the Hulk Gang and he murders them in as many grotesque ways as he can. He does not hold back. His revenge is nearly complete. And after tracking down every member of the Hulk Gang, he troubles upon Bruce Banner's lair for the final showdown. Bruce Banner has been holed up here with one of his grandchildren, simply known as Baby Bruce. Bruce Banner doesn't give very many reasons for why he moved into the country and had a redneck family of Hulks, but he does explain that it was probably something to do with the gamma radiation messing with his head a little. So old frail human form of Bruce Banner, with superhuman strength, fights against Logan. And as they fight, Banner reveals that he was bored of being a landlord, bored of being a supervillain. He wanted someone to fight and kill again, which is why he decided to get his greatest nemesis, Wolverine, back. But Wolverine is the best at what he does, and he lunges into the old puny Banner, and he runs him through the stomach with his adamantium claws, which finally awakens the beast that is the Hulk. Now the size of a building, he grabs Wolverine and he bites into him. Hours later, another remaining Hulk relative walks back into Bruce Banner's lair, and he sees Hulk sitting and reveling at his greatest victory. He ate Wolverine, but Hulk is having stomach cramps. And suddenly, Wolverine bursts out of Hulk's body, presumably killing Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk finally. 1 month later, Logan is at the funeral of his family. He is there with the locals that knew him and his family, and they're all sorry for his loss. They all want to know, what is Logan going to do now? But he has nothing left. With his family dead, he is dressed up and ready to ride away from his old life. As he's ready to leave, one of them asks, "Are you really gonna bring law back to this country?" And he replies, "Why not? Got nothing better to do." While the task may seem impossible, Logan begins to ride off into the sunset with little baby Bruce Banner strapped to his back. This leads us to a gang having a poker game, talking about how the Hulks are dead and everyone is grabbing up their territories. One guy in a Daredevil mask says that he heard it was a single guy, and his friend in the Iron Man mask asks him, "What guy?" That's when Logan is standing in the doorway. "Might be this guy." He cracks open a beer and takes a sip. The man in the Iron Man mask tells him that he has 3 seconds to get out of there. So Logan steps forward and pours the beer on the guy in the Daredevil mask's head. 2. The Iron Man guy stands up. "End him!" And Logan lunges forward, gutting the man. And then he guts every thug there. Blood, body parts, and bullets fly around the room until Logan is thrown out a window and onto the roof of a Jeep. He stands up screaming, and then he shows his claws to the only man left, the man in the Daredevil mask. "Take off that mask," he tells him. And the man does, and he begins to beg. "Please, I didn't do nothing." "You wear this uniform, and you don't even know who this is?" It's just cool." So Logan guts him with the rest, and he walks away. The people of the town walk over. "What are we supposed to do now?" You're free, you're welcome. But the townspeople don't look too happy with him. You can build something new! You can build something worth living for! He then calls for his horse. I'm old enough to remember a time that hadn't gone to hell. It doesn't have to be like this. I'll be back, and if you haven't built something worth living for, I'll burn this place down and someone else will start over. He then rides off onto the dusty trail. As he's riding off, he comes across the head of an Ultron as it lands in front of him. He picks it up and he looks at it, and then he looks into the sky. Huh? Logan then goes home where the baby Hulk that he rescued from before is sitting comfortably being raised by Danny Cage, the daughter of the real Luke Cage. Logan makes sure that she's okay and that baby Hulk is okay, and then he sets off on his mission to figure out where this Ultron head came from by going to a nearby town, known as a tourist attraction due to it being the final resting place of Thor's hammer before he fell. This place is where you can buy a Fantastic Four t-shirt or an Iron Man mask, and it's very popular. Except no one's here. Logan walks through curious as to where everyone is until he gets a whiff of Emma Frost. He walks in and she shows him Jean Grey and he tells her, Emma, stop this. I'm not Scott. I don't like it when you mess with my mind. So she changes into a young Emma, one that Logan will recognize. Stop, Emma. Show me the real you. A girl has to keep some of her dignity, Logan, she tells him. Emma explains that when Logan killed the Hulks, he started a domino effect. The balance of the territory shifted and she ended up here. But the Punisher showed up and killed everyone. She tried to help, but she only made things worse and made them crazier. She lays down on the bed and tells Logan that she knows where the head came from and why he's here. She can read minds after all. But Logan should stop what he's doing. He can't save the world. That's Doom's job. He turns looking at her oddly for that statement and then he watches her illusion fade. She grows older and he can see the bullet wound in her gut. She's dying. You had one hell of a run, Frost. Logan, I miss teaching. Yeah, me too. When I saw you walk in, I thought you were the angel of death here to take me. And as her voice trails off, Logan gets up and he walks to the wall. A mighty dividing wall that he doesn't even remember when it was built. It just showed up one day. He sticks his claws into it and he begins to climb. And once he reaches the top, he can see for miles and nothing looks right. What is this? He asks. That's when a Thor from the Thor Corps floats in front of him. What you are doing is forbidden. What the hell are you supposed to be? And why are you dressed like a dead man? The Thor hits Logan with the full force of their lightning, and he falls off the wall and lands in the forest down below. He gets up, and as he heals, he runs into Sabretooth with a collar around his neck, claiming to be one of the Horsemen. The soldiers with Sabretooth begin to riddle Logan with bullets, but before they can continue their fight, there's a kathoom! As lightning hits the ground and Storm appears with the X-Men. They look at Logan in shock. How is it possible? It looks like his dad's dad! But before he can hear any more, he's shut down by Emma Frost. He wakes up in his own mindscape with Emma trying to figure out what's going on. He remembers her dying a few hours ago, and she remembers him being dead as well. How are they both here? But that's a question that they're both going to have to worry about later because Sabretooth and the Horsemen blow up the wall. Magneto turns to Wolverine. You brought this on us! And he throws him out into the streets, where he lands in front of Apocalypse! But the Thor finally returns and demands that Logan be returned to her. He is to be punished. The Thor throws down lightning and in the process injures the X-Men and Apocalypse's Horsemen. A fight ensues as the X-Men and Apocalypse's men all begin to fight it out, and Logan sneaks away from the battle to walk up a building, where he jumps on the Thor, slicing and dicing her. She screams at him, "You dare lay a hand on me!" and strikes him with lightning, throwing him far, far away, as she turns her attention to the X-Men and the Apocalypse battle. Logan has no idea where he's going, but it's far and beneath him that there is a city, and it's growing closer and closer until he hits the ground hard. He wakes up in a lab with Tony Stark and Rhodey next to him. Tony starts in with fast questions. Who are you? Where did you come from? How are your bones laced with adamantium and how much for that metal? Logan asks him, where am I now? And then he looks out the window at multiple suits of armor flying around, and Tony tells him, Technopolis. Tony then looks at him. You're from over the wall, aren't you? Do you know my name? Logan looks at him. Tony Stark. Aha! I'm so famous they even know me from over Lord Doom's wall. Lord Doom? Rhodey steps forward. Do you have an issue with Lord Doom? That's when Logan sees Rhodey is holding a Thor hammer. Of course not, why would I? So Tony sits him down. Your body is fighting off the deadly tech virus in our atmosphere to a standstill, but how? Logan gets up and begins to walk out of the office. Thanks for the help, but I have to go. Rhodey stops him. I can't let you leave. You attacked a Thor and you left your domain without permission. without permission. Problem is, old man, you've left your domain. That is forbidden. There's that word again. Logan then turns to Tony. You remember me? I'm sorry. That armor of yours remember me? No, I'm sorry. The X-Men? Who are the X-Men? Brody begins to charge up his hammer and Logan pops his claws. But he can't take the might of Thor's hammer as he's thrown back against a wall, unconscious again. He wakes up in the zombie territory, a land of punishment for people who have stood against doom, where he's being eaten over and over again. He wonders if this is hell or a test from God, but he knows none of that is correct. His only reprieve from being eaten is when the zombies are distracted and they run off. But during one of those times, he runs into a cave where he meets Jennifer Walters, the She-Hulk. She doesn't know who he is, but once again, he remembers his version, and she explains that Almighty Doom has sentenced her here. This is her punishment. Once again, Logan picks up on that weird terminology, Almighty Doom. He asks her why she hasn't just jumped out of here yet, and she tells her she can't do that, it's just too high up. So he asks her, can you throw me? Suddenly the zombies find them and the fight begins again with Logan slicing up as many of them as he can. Rage fills him as She-Hulk grabs him and begins to jump away. Higher and higher, and then she throws him out of zombie territory, telling him that if he sees any Hulks, be nice to them. And then he watches as the world is left behind again, and She-Hulk is taken by a flying zombie. Once again, he begins to fall farther and farther until he lands on the roof of a building. He gets up and he sees New York, the old New York from his past. Has he fallen through time this time, or is this another one of those weird worlds he seems to be traveling to? He looks around and he remembers where all of this began, with Ultron's head falling in front of him. Something is off about this entire world that he's in. She-Hulk keeps mentioning Almighty Doom, and he remembers the arguments with Rhodey and Iron Man, and Apocalypse just being there, and multiple people with Thor's hammers. None of this makes sense. Logan falls to his knees screaming, "Ah!" And then he sees the superhero battle going on above his head, and he ignores it. He climbs down off the building and grabs some clothes out of a bin, and then starts to walk through the streets, only to be stopped by Emma Frost again, another version, and a very young Jean Grey. You look old as dirt, Wolverine, but considering you were dead yesterday, I guess that's an improvement. He begins to smell them and he realizes this is them. Emma reads his mind and Jean joins her, and they both see everything that he's gone through and everything that has happened to him. So Emma asks him, Logan, can I hug you without you stabbing me? And they embrace. You don't need to be scared of me, Jeannie. I'm sorry, but I'm more scared of what's in your head. That can't be helped. Emma then decides she's going to give Logan what he deserves after all of this, a reunion. So they bring him to a room and they give him a meal, while he gets to see all of his old friends alive and well again. The X-Men that he remembers, the time-displaced young X-Men, and even a few new faces. He has found the remnants of the real Marvel Universe from before Battleworld, before Doom took over. And they decide to give him one more thing. So they bring him to the home of the son of a Wolverine, his son from the Ultimate Universe, James Hudson. He asks Emma why she brought him here, and she explains. He deserved to know that his legacy was living on somewhere. Tears began to roll down the old man's face. Good-looking boy. And he asks, you said a Wolverine. Where are we? We're working on that. There was some kind of accident, and we seem to be in two places at once, two dimensions poured over on top of each other. We just can't figure out how Doom is allowing this. So Emma and Wolverine enter his mindscape again as she explains that he needs to relax now. Time and space are broken and everything is wrong. But eventually, the heroes will do something huge to correct this, to make time and space right again. She believes that when that happens, he'll be leading the charge through the front door, because just maybe all of his lifetimes were leading up to this moment. The universe was training him for the day that it would need him the most. So what happens after that, Emma? What happens after we rise up against God? I don't know. But maybe, after all of this, maybe we'll get a second chance. The only thing Logan can remember is a white light, and then waking up in Times Square. Except, Times Square should be gone. All of this, it's all dead. Wait, who is he? Scotty? No. As Logan tries to make sense out of what's going on, some officers begin to ask him if he's okay, and he lashes out at them, throwing a metal barricade at one of the officers and breaking the arm of the other. The first officer fires his taser, and then Logan tries to run at him, and the officer pulls out his gun, shooting him. Logan falls over, and as he picks himself up, he pulls out his claws and he remembers. Oh God, he remembers. The world isn't like this anymore. The villains finally got their act together and they took over. And the worst of them was Banner. He had a family. He was trying to be happy, but it really did just end all the same. Blood, death, and him, alone like an animal. Looking at his claws, Logan runs off to find a place to think because this is all different. So he finds an apartment to crash in and he looks at the paper dated 2015. This was before everything went bad. Somehow he's back. Before the wastelands, before his family. How the hell is that even possible? He begins to get dressed and he looks down at his hat and he thinks how Scotty had a hat just like that. That was until one day when Black Butcher took his hat while they were trading and smacked Scotty knowing Logan wouldn't do anything. Logan wanted to do something, but he didn't and he left. Then it happened. Except it hasn't happened yet. So maybe he was sent here to do something about it. Do what he does best. So Logan begins searching for him, asking all of the lowlifes until finally, a few days later, they give him the answer that he wanted. As the night begins to cover the city, Logan jumps through a window knowing that this is where the Black Butcher was. And as he lands, Logan is tased by a younger Butcher telling him that he doesn't know why he's looking for him, but he picked a fight with the wrong guy. Just as the Butcher raises his arm to tase Logan again, the Butcher's arm goes flying off. Logan grabs him and the Butcher says, "Is this about the robbery in Jersey? I didn't mean to hurt those people." And Logan tells him, "This isn't about that. You hit my boy." Butcher tries to say he doesn't even know his boy, but Logan holds his fist to his chin and then schnicked. As the Butcher's body falls to the ground, Logan knows why he is here. He's here to hunt. So he takes out a pen and holds his arm out, crossing the name Butcher. And next is Banner. Logan begins to remember back to one night when he could hear the screams of another farmer die at the hands of the Banner clan. Logan and his wife Maureen would go to the farmer's home the next day to see his body in pieces, and she tells him there's nothing they can do. Logan tells her that maybe there was something he could do, and Maureen tells him this isn't his fight. He has a family now, he's already fought his wars, so he should just go home before they hear him and come this way. Except Maureen was wrong, it was his fight. All he did was watch, and that was what got his family killed. So now that he is in the past, 2015, he's not sure how, but he's here and it's time to set things right. He traveled through the sewers of Manhattan when he finds the Hulk helping with the traffic pileup. This isn't the first time that he's fought Banner, so he knows where to aim first. The legs. Logan crawls through the sewers and he runs past the Hulk, slashing at his ankles. Before getting too far, Hulk grabs Logan by the head and Logan slashes again at his hand, this time freeing himself. Hulk tells him that if he wants to fight, fine, but not here. There are too many people. And he punches Logan hard, sending him flying. He jumps after him, but before knocking him back to the ground, Logan thinks, this doesn't sound like Banner. For a second, doubt crosses Logan's mind, but then he remembers what his kids will do to Logan's kids, and he won't let that happen. He tries to jump back up to attack, but Hulk kicks him upwards through a building all the way to the top. Logan looks over at a crane coming from the roof and he thinks, new plan, distract him. With a quick slice, Logan cuts the crane arm to fall, and once Hulk catches it, he moves into attack. But before he can swing, Hulk grabs Logan's arm and crushes it, and then he slams him down, telling him, that's enough. But it isn't for Logan as he stands back up, and the Hulk tells him, okay, time out. You actually look kind of messed up. Logan begins to think again that this really doesn't sound like Banner, so he asks, and Hulk tells him, Banner? No, wrong guy. My name's Osmodius Cho, I'm the new Hulk. Amadeus says maybe he can help him, but Logan hears the cops coming and he runs off. As he looks at the streets, he thinks, Brooklyn. Amadeus punched me into Brooklyn, but that's good. I know someone here. He was the only friend that I had in the future, so all I have to do is sneak into his apartment and wait for him to return. In the apartment, a dog runs up to Logan and begins to lick him, so he asks where his daddy is, and then he looks up to see an arrow pointed right at him. He asks, Barton? Hawkeye? But the girl tells him, you're only half right. Logan looks up and he says he remembers. She's the other Hawkeye. This isn't Barton's place. She tells him her name is Kate Bishop, not other Hawkeye, but Clint's away on a mission. And now it's her turn to ask the questions, like why is he ancient looking and isn't he dead right now? Logan explains that he's from the future, which Kate doesn't find very surprising since the X-Men are always time traveling. But what she wants to know is what's with the list on his arm. He tells her that in a few years, the bad guys will finally rise together and all of the heroes will die, and that's the world that he came from. But if he kills the people on his arm, the future doesn't happen. So Kate asks him, what about Clint? And he says that he was one of the ones that didn't die. A villain named Avalanche blinds him, and I always end up helping him, so
She tells him that can't be right, but Logan walks off stating, "Don't worry, my healing factor will kick in soon. Thanks for the hospitality. I'm just gonna be going on my..." But before Logan can leave, he collapses. Slowly, Logan begins to wake back up and he sees that he's still in the apartment and he asks how long he's been out. Kate tells him about 33 hours, but after giving him a cup of coffee, she says, "Let's say that I believe you're from the future. Who else is on that list? Mysterio? I know where he is, so let's go." Logan tries to say that he works alone, but Kate tells him, "Blah, blah, blah, the grim Wolverine hunts alone, and now I'm even more grim because I'm like 90 years old." Okay, so how about we just skip that part and we go off together? As the two of them travel through the city, Kate says that she needs to know something about the future. Who is the female Thor? She's dying to know. But Logan asks, "Who?" And Kate tells him, "You know, the female Thor. Isn't there one where you come from?" And he tells her, "No, but that doesn't matter. People change costumes and names all the time. I probably just missed it." Once the two of them reach the building that they're looking for, Kate tells him to hold on. First, he doesn't know about a female Thor. The thing about Avalanche, well, he's been dead. So maybe this isn't his past. Maybe take some time. Logan pulls his claws out, stating that he's had nothing but time, and time's up. He kicks in the door and he begins sniffing around until he finds two men and asks, "Where's Mysterio?" The men say they don't know any Mysterio, but Logan tells them not to lie and he slices one of the man's hands off. Kate tells him to stop, firing an arrow next to his head, but Logan turns to her, telling her the one thing that she should know is that his healing factor works great against arrows. And then he turns towards Kate. With a quick slash, he rips through her bow, and Kate counters by hitting him in the chin and knocking him away. After regaining his balance, Logan grabs Kate by the neck and he slams her into the wall, and she asks, "What, you gonna kill me too?" And Logan tells her, "I'm trying to save everyone." And he begins to leave. Once outside, he begins to smell something, and he begins to climb up a ladder. And something hits his wrist, knocking him back down. A man tells him that he's gonna need to stand down, soldier, and as Logan looks up, the shield hits off the wall, bouncing back to the older Steve Rogers, and he tells him, "That's an order." Logan asks if it's really him, but then Steve asks, "Is it really you?" And Logan gets back up. Kate draws her bow, telling Steve to be careful, he's unstable, and Logan points at Steve, stating, "That's not you. Steve never went old like this." Steve tells him, "Take a breath, we'll figure it out." The claws pop out and Logan tells them, "You're not taking me anywhere." And a second later, the arrow releases and the shield cracks Logan in the face. Later, Logan wakes up to see Steve and Kate, but they're not in the city anymore. They're in Alberta. Steve says, "Yes, near your home." The X-Men thought it would be a fitting place for it. And Logan asks him, "What is it?" And Steve tells him what they're here to show him, but before he lets him free, he needs his word that he'll behave. Logan agrees, but as Steve starts to untie him, Logan asks if this is one of Mysterio's illusions. Are they really back in New York? Steve tells him to wait, but then the claws come out and Logan begins to fight with Steve and Kate. Logan cuts through Kate's bow, and she tells him that that was the second bow that he trashed. The fighting continues with Steve beating down on Logan with the shield until finally he stops moving. Through his heavy breathing, Logan tells him, "You have to stop it. I'm from the future where everyone's dead. You, the X-Men, everyone. I have to stop it from happening." Steve walks off telling him, "You need to see something." The three of them walk into a cabin that's close by, and Steve explains that one of his X-Men, Forge, designed this place to let him rest in peace. As the elevator comes down, Logan sees the figure of him, and Steve says that that is him, encased in adamantium. He died. This isn't his past. Their Wolverine is dead. Well, Logan walks over to the figure and asks, "This is really him, isn't it?" And Steve tells him, "Yes, he died. So how is it you got here?" As Logan tries to remember, he tells him, "I don't know. All that I remember is my family, the wastelands, and then a flash." Steve asks him, "Family?" And Logan tells him, "Yeah, I lost my family to the Banner clan." And Steve follows up, "Banner? Lord, what kind of nightmare did you come from?" As he stands there, Logan tells him, "The worst kind. I've seen enough," and he begins to leave. Steve tells him that he wants to help, but Logan tells him that if he wants to help, just let him go. Ain't no place for him here and Wolverine is dead. Let him stay that way. So Logan did what he's good at and he drifted around. This wasn't his past. So much is the same, but so much is different. There's nothing for him to fight here, so he will just become a ghost. But with all of that time, he still can't shake the feeling that he's just biding time. But for what? And then he found it. Logan sniffs the air and the claws come out and a sentinel drops in. He leaps towards it, but the sentinel tells him, "Please wait, don't hurt me." As a claw stabs into his chest, Logan asks, "Not hurt you? What is this?" Then Logan hears someone. It's Storm and Iceman, and she asks if it's really him. And Logan stops and thinks how the past is gone, and tomorrow may well bring the hell that he fears. But today it feels damned good to be alive. After spending some time with Storm and the other X-Men, Logan decided that it would be best to have a little leave of absence from the team, so he can go take care of a few things. Storm hands him a communicator, and Logan says that he needs to do this on his own. but Storm tells him actually it's more if they need him. He says he's getting used to the whole team thing again, but he'll be back. Once he got out of Limbo, which is where the X-Men mansion was located, Logan traveled north all the way up to the Killhorn Falls in Alaska, where he finds a small community built around a gravel quarry. The town has an ice road that allows access for only 3 months out of the entire year, and he arrived just as the road went out for the entire season. So this is where Logan will be staying for a while. Even though he's never been here before, it feels like he has, and as he walks around, he begins to remember. Back then, when he was tricked into killing the other X-Men, all he wanted to do was pay the price for killing his friends, and he would soon find a place just like this. Even though Logan tried his best to kill Wolverine, the healing factor had other plans. But from that day, Wolverine was buried forever. He couldn't kill himself, but he could kill the man that he was. But as time would pass in Killhorn Falls, Logan found himself a job and he began to blend into the community. That's what he came here for. And one night after leaving work, he sees a dog whimper and he decides to give it something to eat. However, a voice behind him says that he shouldn't feed the strays. Mommy says that they will just keep coming back. Logan asks the little girl if that's how her mama got stuck with her, and the little girl sticks out her tongue. The girl begins to pet the dog, and Logan says that it seems like he likes her, and the girl tells him because she feeds him too. Looking down at the little girl, she asks what his name is, and he tells her James. And then he asks her what is her name, and she says Maureen, and Logan thinks, yeah, that's exactly where he needs to be. Later that night, Logan sits out in front of his shack thinking about how this may not be his past. He may never have met Maureen the way he did before, but this time, he can let her grow up safe. As the dog walks off, it's soon killed. And a voice begins to ask, can Logan really be back? And another voice says, there's only one way to find out. And that's when Deathstrike says, it's time to go hunting. The next morning, Logan is woken up by a knock on his door from Maureen and her mother asking if he's seen the dog Burger anywhere. Logan tells her that he hasn't seen him, and Maureen asks, what if Burger's hurt or even eaten by a bear? Maureen's mother, Trish, says that they can look for him after school, but Logan says that she should listen to her mother. He'll go looking for the dog. If there's one thing he's good at, it's finding burgers. The two say thank you to Logan before leaving, but around the corner there's someone watching. Logan heads out, and it doesn't take him long to find the dog's scent. And the scent is also something he's a little too familiar with. As he finds Burger, he sees the cuts on him were clean, like a sharp, clean blade, and then he smells something else in the air. He begins smelling machine oil and gasoline, and then he finds a helicopter. But before he can check it out, he begins to hear gunfire. He runs back into the town, but it's already too late. There are bodies lying around everywhere, and thankfully, none of them are Maureen. The gunfire suddenly stops and things get quiet. Too quiet. And then an explosion goes off behind Logan, knocking him away. When he looks back, he sees Bonebreaker, one of the Reavers, and the Reavers never travel alone. Bonebreaker begins to spin his Gatling gun again, and he begins to spray bullets down on Logan. But as he walks through shielding himself, he then gets close enough to cut through the gun. However, before Logan can swing at Bonebreaker, a cannon comes out of his chest, shooting Logan and blasting him away. Bonebreaker says, you know what the best part about having tank treads for legs is? Rolling over someone else's legs. Logan screams out in pain as the small tank begins to crush his legs, and when Bonebreaker parks on top of him, he asks if he's even alive under there. Claws begin to stab up through the tank body, and Logan comes ripping through it, throwing the upper part of Bonebreaker's body to the ground. Logan then walks over asking, do you know the best part about having knives in your fist? This. Logan pops his claws out, stabbing through Bonebreaker's neck and out of the back of his head. One of the officers comes over to see what's going on, and Logan tells him that he's gonna need his help. He's gonna need him to get all of the remaining people in town down into the quarry while he checks on something. He runs back over to his shack to grab the communicator that Storm gave him, and he finds that his shack is already destroyed and on fire. A little while later, as people gather in the quarry, Logan meets back up with them, and Trish says that the kids aren't here. They're in school and in the church basement. Logan rushes back over to the church, and just as the door opens, a Reaver starts to walk in, and Logan appears behind him. The Reaver's body is then pulled back outside, and then Logan goes back inside, telling them that they need to move. Maureen hugs Logan, and he tells her that she needs to help him right now. She needs to take all of the kids over to the quarry at this moment. Once the kids begin to leave, Logan picks up another scent, and then his claws pop out. One Reaver says, it's over, Wolverine, and another one grabs a child, telling him to just give up. Everyone in this town is going to die. Logan steps forward, and he tells the Reaver that he would like to make a counter proposal. Let the kid go, and I might let you keep your legs. Before he can answer, though, Logan punches through the Reaver's head and then shouts for Maureen to take the others and run. The other Reaver stabs Logan in the back, and then after slashing back and breaking the spine, Logan takes it and stabs him with it. He then asks, why are you doing this? And the Reaver begins to tell him that they just wanted to lure him out with the dog, but she got other ideas. Logan asks who, and the Reaver tells him, Lady
Deathstrike. And as he finishes saying her name, his head flies off in the air. Logan heads back down to the quarry, but he knows he's already going to be too late, and as he walks up, he sees Deathstrike holding Maureen and Trish hostage. Deathstrike says that she heard he came back, but he cheated. He was supposed to be dead for real this time, but here he is, older, so she has a proposition. She will let one of these two go, and he gets to choose who. Logan tells her not to do this, Yuriko, and Trish says, just promise her that he'll take care of Maureen, alright? Just promise her. Logan says, I promise. And then Deathstrike tosses Maureen to the side, and Logan asks if he got the shot. Deathstrike asks, what? And then a bullet flies through Deathstrike's back as she drops Trish. Behind her, the officer from before says, yeah, I got the shot. Logan tells him, get Trish out of here. I want to handle this one alone. And Deathstrike asks if he thinks that she's the only one coming for him. Do you think this will ever stop, Logan? He starts to make a fist and he tells her, well, you got me now. And a claw pops out and Logan begins running towards her. Deathstrike jumps into the air as Logan goes in swinging and kicks him in the face. And then before he can get back up, she slashes away part of his face. Logan tries to get back up, but Deathstrike punches tearing through his stomach and out his back. And the officer tries to tell her to stop. With Logan beaten down, she then turns her attention towards the officer. She then raises her arms to kill him, but Logan gets back up and he runs forward, cutting off both of Deathstrike's arms. And then he punches her in the back and he rips his claws out. The only thing that he can remember is the sound of Deathstrike dragging herself over the gravel and the snow beginning to fall on them. And then nothing. A little while later, Logan wakes back up and sees the officer sitting next to him. He asks if Maureen and Trish are safe, and the officer tells him yes, but the little girl keeps asking about him. Logan tells him to stay with them until help arrives. He can't see them again, and tell her that he's sorry for everything. Logan leaves and he takes the dead Reavers' bodies and he begins to burn them. And then he watches the fire because he knows that Deathstrike is out there and dozens like her. And he's done waiting for them to bring chaos. He will be the one to bring chaos and he will be coming for them. Once the bodies are burned, Logan returned to Limbo where X-Haven was, and he can't help but think that tonight could be the night and that they're not ready. He's let his guard down. He then hears a voice in his head telling him that no, he hasn't. It's not going to happen tonight. And then he looks up to see Jean. He says that it happened on a night just like this, and she tells him that it's not going to happen. During his time, the Xavier Mansion was still on Earth, not in Limbo. Magneto wasn't fighting with the X-Men, and Thor was still a dude. But if he still has doubts that this isn't his time period, that he's going to be tricked into killing everyone, then they're going to take a little road trip together. She just wants to get her costume on. Back in Manhattan, some of the last heroes made their final stand against the villains. People died. But now, there's nothing. People are living just fine. Jean tells him that it's 1:30 in the morning, no mass villain attack, no nothing. And Logan tells her, okay, you proved your point. And she tells him, we're not done. After New York, where else did things happen? So they teleport over to where Hank Pym made his final stand and died in that alternate timeline. But again, nothing happened. And then Jean decides they have one more stop, and she teleports them again to upstate New York where the mansion was, where Logan killed everyone in his timeline. Jean tells him that it's going to be okay. And also, she lied. She has one more place to go. This time, they teleport over to Madripoor, and Logan asks what they're looking at now. And Jean tells him that she knows that he's been on edge lately, as this was the day that everything happened in his time, but instead of being alone, she brought some company. They walk into the building, and Logan sees Steve, Clint, Jubilee, and even Puck. Logan asks Steve if everything is good, and he tells him always. Moments later, everyone begins to celebrate being together, and Logan looks at Jean and tells her that this better be a soda. And she tells him to stop being a party pooper, old man. As the night goes on, Logan steps out onto the pier as the sun rises. And a short while later, Jean comes out telling him that he needs to stop sneaking off like that. But the sun's up, and they made it through another night. Logan tells her, yeah, we made it through. But as I'm sitting here, I've been thinking about you a lot, and this time, in my world, you weren't around. You were already dead. You've always kept me in line, no matter how much things have changed. You've always seen the light in the dark. You remind me of my daughter. You always see the best in everyone. Jean tells him that she thinks he's getting soft. But does he really think it's going to happen? And Logan tells her, no idea. But I think you finally got me to see that if it does, I won't have to face it alone. With Deathstrike still on the loose, Logan heads over to Tokyo to meet with a contact known as Ito, hoping that they know where to find her. As the two sit at a bar, Logan asks if Ito has any information, and Ito tells him sure, but where's the money? Logan slides an envelope stating that all 1 million yen is there. Ito takes it and slides over a paper with the intel. He also says that he's done some digging himself and he found that there still appears to be a bounty on Logan, 3 million yen to be exact. As Logan opens up the paper, he sees the word boom, and he quickly realizes things are not about to go too well. Before he can even stand up, Logan is shot over and over until his body falls down onto the table. Logan thinks how he knew he couldn't trust Ito, and unfortunately for Ito and his crew, they don't know everything about Logan.
Logan gets up, throwing the table at the gunman, and he jumps over to Ito, popping his claws. Within seconds, all of the gunmen are cut down and killed. Ito tries to escape, but before he can even get out the door, Logan grabs him, telling him that he has until the count of 3 to tell him what he wants to know. A little while later, Logan takes a boat out to a village where Ito said that Deathstrike was, but the strange thing is, he doesn't smell anyone. After a bit of searching, Logan finally picks up on her scent, machine oil and blood. The trail takes Logan to an abandoned shack at the edge of the village, and he pops his claws ready to kill. As the door opens to the shack, Logan hears Deathstrike asking him if it's him. He tells her to come out so he can see her, and she says that she can't. He's gotta help her. He looks over to see that Deathstrike is bound and chained up with cuts all over her body. Though this isn't the first time that Logan has been to Japan, he's reminded of the time that him and Maureen escaped the wastelands here. Back then, they had other troubles to worry about. The Silent Order. Logan runs over to Deathstrike, telling her that this better not be some kind of trick, and she tells him that he shouldn't have come here. It's exactly what they wanted. Logan asks who, and then he feels an arrow go through his arm, and then several more shooting into his back. As his body falls to the ground, he begins to feel his healing factor working, but the arrows, they were poisoned and they're slowing it down. A foot then steps on his head, and the voice tells him that he has no idea how long they've waited. He now belongs to the Silent Order. A little while later, Logan finds himself in a hole and the voice of Maureen telling him to get up. Logan says this can't be real. That can't be you. Maureen was left in the wastelands at a different time, a different place. Before Old Man Logan found himself in this world, Maureen was his wife before she was murdered. Maureen tells him of course not, he's still in Japan and right now he needs to wake up, but be warned, it's really going to hurt. Logan opens his eyes to see the arrows from before still stuck in him, and then he sees the sunlight atop. He begins to pull the arrows out and he claws his way out of the hole. And as he begins to get higher and higher, the voice from before tells him that that was pretty impressive, but futile. The man pulls back at his bow and he fires another arrow into Logan's chest, knocking him back down to the bottom of the well. He then says that he's been trying to kill him for days now, but even with him being resilient, they will find a way. Logan looks at the man and tells him, that's where you're wrong. I already know everything about you. Your name is Sohee of the Silent Order, and I've already killed you once before. Back then, when he and Maureen were surrounded by the Silent Order, they attacked him. One of the men said that his name was General Sohee. Logan tried to tell those people from before that they were passing by, but back then, Sohee stabbed Logan in the throat, except Logan didn't die. Back in the current day, Logan goes on stating that he knows a lot of things. Like, when Sohee killed him before, he was a bit younger. Sohee tells him that they've been after him for quite some time. Using Deathstrike as bait would surely draw him out without the aid of the other X-Men. Logan calls out that he's sorry to break it to him, but he's killed him before. He has no problem killing Sohee again. Logan pops his claws and he begins to climb again, and as he does, Sohee fires more and more arrows into him. After finally clawing his way out, Sohee asks if he's had enough, and Logan tells him, not even close. Deathstrike's voice shouts, it's no use, you can't beat them, and Logan pulls an arrow out of himself, telling her, yeah, I'm gonna see about that. It's just gonna be me and Sohee. Sohee laughs, telling him that won't be the case. Unlike you, we are the Silent Order. When you fight one, you fight all of us. Logan charges, jumping into the crowd of men, cutting away who he can, but as the fight goes on, Logan knows that even he can't outlast them like this. So that means, like it or not, he's going to have to team up with someone who wants to kill him. Logan cuts down the post holding up Deathstrike's cage as she steps out, stating that she's not sure if she should thank him or just kill him right now. The two stand back to back and Logan says that she can kill him if she wants to, but they have to get out of here first. You see, back in the past, in the other world, the wastelands, the fight didn't exactly go like this. So he captured Logan and his wife Maureen of the time, and he had taken them to their leader. Logan told Maureen that he was really sorry for what she's about to see, and the leader sees Logan staring at some of the collections on the wall and tells him that his trophies are really something else. Though Japan didn't have very many supervillains, they all fell before the Silent Order. But right now it's about him. How about they take a look inside to see what the real him is like, shall they? As the leader places his hands on Logan's head, he begins to see Logan's life, all of the death and destruction that surround him. He then steps back, asking Sohee what he has done. He has brought a monster to them. Logan stands up, popping his claws, telling Maureen, I'm sorry, but you're gonna want to close your eyes. Back in the current times between Logan and Deathstrike, the two cut down most of the Silent Order, but Sohee tells them that it's not enough. Deathstrike tells him no, they used her as bait, so now she's gonna kill him. So he pulls out his sword and in a flash tells her that now their story is finished with her. Logan tells him to leave her alone. He's already killed him before and he's happy to do it again. Logan then charges with his claws out, but Sohee catches his fist, telling him, you claim to know me, but I too know all about you. Through their struggle, Logan headbutts Sohee to push him back, but Sohee just returns the kick to the stomach, knocking him away. As the two fight, the fight doesn't quite play out as it once did before. This time, instead of Logan standing over Sohee's body, it's Sohee standing over his.
But before he can deliver the final blow, Logan kicks him, knocking him over the ledge. But rather than falling, his body stops and floats, and Logan begins to float as well. The voice of a young boy tells Logan to stop hurting his friends. Logan tells the boy that the way he's looking at it, those guys are not his friends, they just want to use him. And he goes on stating that he can help with his powers. There are others like him, so please stop this. The boy screams no. He knows who he is. He has seen the day of his death brought on by him. Logan's body is slammed into the ground, and the boy says that the day his power manifested, he had a vision. It was his future, where Wolverine killed Sohi and himself. But the killing didn't stop there. He began killing everyone in the Silent Order, those who tried to protect him, but no matter what, he just kept coming like a monster. Logan slowly stands up, stating that he isn't here to kill the boy. That future is not going to happen. That's why he came back here, to change that. Right now, their future is unwritten, both of their futures. The boy shouts, liar, and Sohi tells him to step back, but the boy begins to lift up both Logan and Sohi again, stating that he's tired of being told what to do. They all just fail him. He then holds Logan up and shoots him down into the well where Deathstrike fell. Lifting up Logan again, he continues to slam him down harder and harder each time, asking why he won't just die. Deathstrike says that she asked herself that many times before, and over again, the boy just keeps lifting and dropping Logan. There are plenty of times that Logan wished he could have died, like back when Maureen watched him slaughter the Silent Order of their time. One of these days, he's going to die, but that day isn't today. Deathstrike grabs one of the stray arrows and throws it up into the well into the boy's leg, causing him to fall down. So he runs over to catch him, but his grasp misses. He looks down and he sees Logan holding the boy with his claws ready to pop out, telling him, playtime's over. He then shouts at them to send a rope down, and so he says that not even the Wolverine will kill a defenseless boy. Deathstrike says maybe so, but she sure as hell would. So he tells the others to grab the rope. While Sohi and the rest grab it, Deathstrike tells Logan that he owes her if they get out of here. And Logan tells her that if they get out of here, he's gonna make her a damned X-Men. But as the two of them go on, the boy's eyes begin to get wide. And then there's a massive explosion, throwing both Logan and Deathstrike out. As they watch, they see the boy coming out as his body begins to transform. With a bright pink flash, the boy's body grows into a giant creature, and he starts to shout, "You won't kill me!" Logan runs up telling him to hang on. He knows that he's scared right now, but the boy tells him no. He isn't scared of anything. So he shouts that is enough, but the boy tells him to wait, and several spears shoot into Logan's stomach. He begins to think to himself that this is where his future finally catches up to him. Breaking all of the spears, he tears through the Silent Order, and he punches upwards, cutting away at Sohi's chest and face. He looks back, telling the boy that the last time he saw his boy, he was about the same age as him. He would give anything to give his son another chance, but this world is hard enough as it is. So no, he isn't going to kill him, and if he stays with Sohi, it's only a matter of time before someone does. The boy breaks out of the giant body and places his hand on Logan's head, and he looks. Everything that Logan has been through, everything that he has fought for, everything that he has lost. The boy leans back, stating that he lost them all, but he's here now. How could that be? Logan tells him that he barely understands his situation himself, but he's living with it. And right now, he's got a choice. He can stay with Sohi and let them decide his future, or he can choose his own way. Sohi shouts that he can't. The Silent Order will rise, and he is the one to lead them. But as Sohi goes on, the boy tells him to just stop. He doesn't want to do this anymore. He just wants to be a boy. He then begins to destroy everyone around him, pushing back the Silent Order. Logan asks, "Did you?" And the boy says, "No, they're not dead. There's already been so much of that." The boy then asks what happens now, and Logan tells him, "I'll put a call into S.H.I.E.L.D. They'll pick up Sohi and the others. But you can come with me and leave all of this behind." The boy then asks if there are other children like him, children who are different. And Logan holds out his arms, telling him, "Yeah, I know a whole mansion of them. You're gonna love it there." With everything that Logan has recently been through, he figured now would be the best time to sit back and finally enjoy a drink in peace. Except as he takes a sip from his drink, Cerebra shows up telling him that he has come to inform him that a notable mutant has gone missing. At first, Logan tells him that he can go get one of the others to find this mutant. He's currently off duty. But Cerebra tells him that the mutant who's missing is Jubilee, and his eyes widen. He starts by heading over to Jubilee's home in Brooklyn, but rather than finding any clues on her disappearance, Logan finds Jubilee's son, Shogo, playing all alone. Logan takes Shogo to Cerebra and tells him that he's going to have to watch the baby while he goes out to find Jubilee. Cerebra tells him that he's not really programmed to monitor and watch over an infant, and Logan says that he's got to improvise this time. Logan then asks where was Jubilee's last known location, because that's where he's going to be sending him. Cerebra says that the last known location was Romania, but maybe they should drop the infant off with the other X-Men before they can go. Logan tells him no, he's going solo in this, and if he's ready, go ahead and teleport him to of Romania before he melts him down into a new motorcycle. Just as the pink light begins to shine, Cerebro tells him that there is no need for such threats. In a flash, Logan is teleported into the woods of Romania to begin his search. But not long after walking a few feet, Logan can begin to feel that there's something wrong with this place, and that's when he finds blood on the ground. He checks it and he can see that it's not Jubilee's blood, nor is it even human. But then, he begins to hear a twig snap, and a giant hand reaches out, grabbing him by the face. Man-Thing slams Logan to the ground, and he picks him back up and sets him on fire. Logan claws his way free, and that's when he hears a scream as a monkey jumps on his back. Logan grabs the monkey and throws him off, and then a wolfman runs in, slashing at Logan's back. He turns back to attack the wolfman, and the wolfman tells him, "Whoa, whoa, 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 time out." He then calls out for the Howling Commandos to hold. This man is that old Wolverine guy. Logan tells them that the only reason they're not dismembered yet is because they're wearing SHIELD uniforms, so they better start talking and keep the damn monkey away from him while they're at it. The Wolfman says that his name is Warwolf, and they're the Howling Commandos, an elite paranormal division called Stake. Logan stares at him and says, "You've gotta be effing kidding me." And Amphibian asks which part. Warwolf explains that his group is looking for their teammate, Vampire by Night. They just happened to assume that he was one of the hostiles, so sorry about that. Currently, they're at war with Dracula and his vampires. It goes on to state that he's been doing some recon, and as of late, all sorts of vampires have been coming to this place. Amphibian then asks why he's here, and Logan tells them because his friend is a vampire, and her name is Jubilee. She must be under Dracula's control right now. Logan then begins to walk off, telling them that this is enough chit-chat. It's time for them to get their friends back. Moments later, the Howling Commandos begin their assault in front of the castle while Logan makes his way through the sewers. And as he gets out, he sees Jubilee, and she shouts that he's gotta save her. Logan tells her that it's going to be okay, he'll get her out of there. But then when he goes to check on her, Jubilee says, "He's here to save me." "Just as you said, Master." A voice then asks Logan if he really thought he could surprise him. Before Logan has a chance to react, Dracula grabs him and bites down at his neck. After letting go, Logan turns around and tries slashing at Dracula, but he slams him into the wall, asking how long will that healing factor go to keep the infection out. As Logan's body falls to the ground, he looks at Jubilee and tells her that this isn't her. He knows that she can hear him. Think of her son, Shogo. Jubilee punches him, telling him to shut up, and Dracula laughs as he goes back to beating on Logan. After slamming him around a little bit more, he then picks up Logan's body and tells him that he's going to try and fight off the infection, but it's taking everything that he has, isn't it? A short while later, Vampire by Night leads the other Howling Commandos, and Jubilee says that the rest of their intruders have been captured. Dracula tells them that this is most excellent. They all deserve a reward for their work, so bring them all to the throne room so that they may feast. But not long after that, Logan begins to wake up, chained to a wall along with the other Howling Commandos. While Dracula taunts them, Jubilee tries to fight back against Dracula's control over her, and Logan shouts that she can do it. She doesn't belong here. Think of Shogo! She walks over to Logan, but Vampire by Night kicks her, telling her that that is enough. Logan then calls back out to her, stating that she can do it, and then there's a loud thumping sound that's getting louder and louder, and Vampire by Night asks if there are any more mutants, and Werewolf tells her nah. He may have called a little backup though, except he's not really little. Dracula shouts who dares, and Orgar rips the roof off and tells him that he dares. It looks like the Commandos have gotten themselves into a fine mess yet again. Man-Thing jumps in and begins freeing everyone from their chains, but as he does, Dracula grabs a hold of Jubilee. He tells Logan that if he can't hurt him, he's gonna have to kill the girl. Jubilee smiles and throws Dracula off of her, shouting for Logan to catch. As he gets closer, Logan pops his claws, tearing into Dracula's stomach, telling Jubilee, "That's my girl." Dracula swings back, telling Logan that he has all the time in the world. He will rise again, and Orgo tells him it's time for him to help. And he grabs Dracula and holds him into the sunlight. As Dracula weakens, Logan tells him that he's had this coming for a long time, and he cuts off Dracula's head. Vampire by Night then runs over, telling Werewolf that she didn't know what had come over her. She's so sorry. Logan looks back at Jubilee and says that it's been one hell of a day. They should probably go home. She grabs Dracula's head and tells him, yeah, they should, but what should they do with this? Logan laughs. Haha, I got a few ideas. Then he calls Cerebra. Seconds later, Cerebra teleports to the sun and releases Dracula's head there to fall in. A short while later, as Logan and Jubilee sit in her apartment, Cerebra tells Logan that it is done. And Logan tells him that he knew that he would make a fine garbage disposal. And Jubilee tells him to be nice. Logan says that he can't, he's got a reputation to uphold. And Jubilee goes on stating that it's too late. Shogo likes him, and he can tell that he's just a big softie. Logan tells him not to believe it. He's tough as nails, just ask Dracula. So Shogo flings his food at Logan, and he shouts, "Dracula!" Jubilee smiles, stating that she thinks someone's just happy to have their mama back. As Logan pulls the food off of his face, he says that he isn't the only one. There was a time when he thought that he would never see her again, and Jubilee laughs, telling Shogo, "See? Told you he's a big softie." As the sun beats down on Logan, He begins to open his eyes, and he sees that he's back in the same place where he came from, the wastelands. But no longer does he try to figure out why he's back here. A giant Tyrannosaurus bites down on him, swallowing Logan up in one gulp. But as Logan slides down the belly of the beast, the claws pop out, and he rips his way out, falling in a pool of blood. He grabs his hat slowly, dusting off his coat, thinking, how did I get here? I was just given a second chance to be a hero, but instead I'm back in the wastelands. He tells himself to think, just think. What was the last thing that he can remember? Puck? A puck like in hockey? No, Puck, as an Alpha Flight Puck. He called for help. He was in space. Puck was in an orbiting space station that Reed Richard used, and there had been nobody in it for years. That was when he got on. He could smell it. He could smell the brood. What if he wasn't in space? Maybe that wasn't real. Maybe he's been in the wastelands the whole time. All he knows now is that he was headed to Las Vegas to see Danielle Cage, who was taking care of Banner's grandson. Logan begins to travel the barren wastelands to Danielle's home, but things are too quiet. As Logan checks around the house, he finds blood, and he thinks, what is that baby doing? Logan forces himself to look in the crib, and he sees nothing. Suddenly, there's a loud thud hitting the closet door, and the claws come out. Logan pulls the door back, ready to hit, and then he sees Danielle tied up. He pulls the tape from her mouth, and she shouts that it was Kang. Kang was here, and he took the baby. Logan thinks to himself, asking, did Kang really do this? Is that how I got here? What about that time when I was in space? I was fighting off the brood, trying to free those who were infected by them. That's when Sasquatch attacked, driven mad by the infection. And then there was Abigail, also infected. Just before I was about to become a part of them, that's when Puck called out to me. But none of that matters right now. Right now, I'm back on Earth, and I need to find Banner's grandchild. If you're curious about this grandchild situation, watch the original Old Man Logan storyline. We have it here on the channel. When that story ends, he has Banner's grandchild, but when the new run started, suddenly that child was missing. Maybe it's time for us to resolve that. Logan heads off and he gets a chill, one that runs down his spine, a cold sensation that he's never felt before. He blinks and he goes from being on Earth to back in space. Puck goes on telling him how him and the other Alpha Flight members came here because of reports of something crashing into the space station. But as far as he can tell now, it was the brood who came aboard, and just as they got here, the brood took over Sasquatch and Abigail. However, before Puck could go on, the alarm sounds and the hatch doors begin to open. Logan begins to remember why he was so cold. He was sucked out into the empty space, and his helmet was cracked. Logan's vision fades and he begins to feel like he's falling. Nothing to reach or grab onto, nothing to stop the descent. And a few seconds later, Logan gasps as he pulls himself out of the lake that he just fell into. He looks around trying to understand what just happened. He was in space and, in a blink of an eye, he finds himself back in the spacecraft. He checks around again and he sees that he is there. And Puck says that he's been out for about 15 hours. As much as he'd like for them to go home, they have to get back onto the space station. They need to stop the infectious spread and get Sasquatch and Abigail back before they can leave. As the two begin to fly and crawl back into the space station, Logan begins to think that he should be back on Earth looking for Banner's grandson. Logan blinks and he sees himself back on Earth, making his way to Kang's stronghold. He remembers Puck telling him to go back. He just doesn't understand at all. He looks at a pile of dead bodies that were his friends, and Puck says that it was the warlord of the wastes. Logan shouts asking, what's happening? How is this happening? Everyone should be dead, and where the hell is Kang? A voice cuts through the silence telling Logan that he is here. But before Logan can attack Kang, Kang reaches out, touching Logan's forehead, telling him the question that he should be asking himself is, where is he? Bits and pieces of information flood into Logan's mind. He's here on Earth, but he's also up in the space station fighting the brood. Logan snaps himself back to reality, grabbing Kang, asking, what have you done? Where's the baby? Kang tells him that he did take the baby, yes, but he was trying to stop the warlord from rising. The one true warlord will rise, and he will rule the wastelands. But before Logan can ask, Logan sees a giant Hulk walking forward. Kang shouts that Banner's grandchild is the warlord. The warlord looks down at Logan, telling him, you left me all alone, and because of that, the wastelands gave birth to me, shaped me into what you see now. The warlord grabs Logan by the throat and he slams him into the ground, shouting, I am the wastelands! Logan hits the ground and he sees this reality shatter, and then he hears Puck stating that they were alone, and there was another ship that came to help. It came from X-Haven. She came to help him, but now She is the one doing this. Logan asks, who is doing this? As his memories begin to piece themselves back together, he sees her, Jean. Logan calls out to Jean, but with the infection inside of her, she doesn't answer, and the Brood begins to pull Logan away. He tries to fight them off, and then his vision begins to change again. First he's in space, then the wastelands, then back in space, and so on. And just as the Brood reach down to grab him, Logan can hear a voice calling out for help. He can hear Jean's voice calling for help. Logan picks himself up and he begins running towards that voice, and as soon as he opens the door, he sees all of the X-Men's bodies dead and lifeless. A hand reaches up from the pile, and as the dead bodies start to come back to life, they begin to swarm onto Logan, and he shouts at them, please, don't let me hurt you like this again. Logan closes his eyes, and then the feeling of him being pulled apart fades, and he opens his eyes to see the wastelands. He can hear something through the wind. He can hear something crying. He follows the sound and he sees a basket, and inside of that basket is Banner's grandson. Logan reaches down, telling the baby that it's okay. He's got him. But as the baby's hand reaches up, it begins to grow and it grabs onto Logan's face. He sees the warlord towering over him, telling him not to feel guilty for leaving him. He's glad the world forged him so. It's what he was destined to do. Logan sees the warlord sitting on his throne and he shouts, I didn't mean to leave you. The warlord tells him, there is nothing to fear. I became the king of this world, and now all bow to me. If you had raised me, I would have grown up weak and vulnerable, just like your own son. And look what happened. They're all dead. Logan looks around, seeing himself laying in a pool of blood, and his daughter JD asking why didn't he save them. Logan tells himself no matter how painful it is, this isn't real. The real him is on the space station looking for Jean, and now he knows what he has to do. He pops a single claw, telling Jean to hold still. He's only got one shot at this because if he misses, then she'll die. Jean tries to stop Logan, and Logan shuts his mind down and he swings! The single claw scrapes across the back of Jean's neck, slicing the parasite that's latched onto her head. He quickly catches Jean before she can fall, telling her, it's okay. Puck calls out, telling him, no, we're not okay. There are too many of them and we can't hold them back. And as the Brood begin to cover Logan and Puck, Jean stressfully says that she can handle this, since they all share one mind, one big, cold, disgusting mind. Jean mutters the word sleep, and in an instant, the Brood stop attacking, and they fall asleep. As the three get back up, Jean tells Logan that she's so sorry, and Logan tells her that it wasn't her fault. Besides, it's all over now. When Logan looks back at everyone, Jean looks at Iceman and says that he's going to be real pissed. And Logan says that he's not cleaning up this mess, calling the experts. A short while later, Beast and the rest of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arrive, and Logan sits alone thinking that there is something that he still needs to do. As Jean walks up, Logan asks if everything's better, and she tells him yeah, just a killer headache she wanted to apologize again for. And Logan stops her, telling her it's fine. In fact, he's actually glad this whole thing happened. Jean asks how exactly is this a good thing, and Logan tells her because it made him remember something. Some way, somehow, he's gonna save him. He has to go back for Banner's grandson.
Logan has been called many things in his lifetime. A mutant, a freak of nature. However, the second part, they got all wrong. Him and nature. They get along just fine. As Logan enjoys the scenes of the forest, the sound of a branch snapping can be heard, and two hikers startle the nearby deer. The male hiker looks at Logan and he tells him, we didn't think that we'd find anyone out here. And Logan just stares at them, stating, neither did I. The female hiker then says that they got kind of lost and they really can't get a signal, so Logan tells them to just head up the stream about 7 miles. And once they get to the bridge, go west about another 5. The couple thanks Logan. Logan smiles as he can smell the fear of them fade, and the change of that to relief. Just as Logan looks away, he hears the all too familiar schnicked, and a blade shoots out of his chest. Logan looks back and he sees that the two hikers have now peeled away their flesh and they reveal their metal interiors. The two robots start to cut away at Logan, using their long claw-like nails, ripping Logan apart. At this point, Logan knows that he can't take the two of them on. They're too strong, too fast. So his only option now is to run away. He heads up the river and he leaps off the ledge into the lake below, and he starts to think of a plan. The robots make their way down into the lake and they spot Logan's blood in the water and they attack him. And as they come out, they find only the chunk of Logan's flesh that he cut off to fool them. Over in the cave, he lets his body regenerate and he begins to think, who'd be after me? Weapon X? Weapon Plus? Reavers? Those things had adamantium blades like fingernails. There's only one person in the world who had those. Yo, Rico. Meanwhile, in another location, Yoriko sits in a test tube as she tries to crawl her way out. After a few failed attempts, she just looks out of the tube and begins to scratch something onto it. The scientists on the outside read the message, "Kill you all." And one says, "Well, that's cheery." Another one sets down a container labeled Logan, and he begins to pull out the chunks of Logan's flesh, stating that they won't have to put up with her for much longer. They've got 2 now and only 3 to go, and as the scientist walks off, he passes 3 more test tubes, each marked Domino, Warpath, and Sabretooth. Later that night, Logan sets out to find the only person he knows can help him. After following the scent, he finds a tree with 4 claw marks and then a torn apart bear. He smiles and says, "Gotcha." But before he can get far, Victor Creed appears, slashing away at him. Logan shouts back to Creed, telling him that he isn't here to fight, and Creed yells back, "Liar!" Logan jumps back, telling Creed to calm down. He can smell as good as him. He can tell if he's lying or telling the truth. Creed stares for a moment and he tells him, I don't know anything anymore." Logan looks at him, telling him, "They got you too, huh? Look, all I know is that there are killer cyborgs wearing human skin." Creed closes his eyes and he says, "The one that came for me was a little kid. Her face split in half and 1,000,000 claws came out." Logan begins to head up to Creed's cabin and he says, "You look like crap, by the way." And Creed shouts, "Well, yeah. Takes a while to rego half your internal organs and 100 pounds of muscle." Once inside, they decide that they need to work together. They have to get a hold of one of those cyborgs and tap into its memory banks. Creed says that they have been fighting for over 100 years. Why the hell would they team up now? And Logan laughs, telling him, "Well, I may have come here and passed every security camera along the way. So just give it a few minutes." Before Creed can ask what he's talking about, the cabin explodes and a cyborg appears shouting, "Die, mutants!" Creed looks at the cyborg and says, "You son of a..." And Logan asks, "How about a team up now?" Meanwhile, over in Arizona, James Proudstar, the man known as Warpath, notices a helicopter bothering some of the nearby Mustangs. As they run off, he looks up the helicopter and he sighs and he begins to chase after. He leaps up and he flies through the air with his knives and cuts the propellers. As the helicopter comes crashing down, he notices that the pilot is a dummy. All of the Mustangs turn back and they begin to neigh at James, and then they transform into mechanical horses with claws. One stabs into him, but he tries to fight back, but the number of horses is too much, and they begin to overpower him. Back over in Washington State, Logan and Creed fight off the group of cyborgs that are after them. Logan shouts that they nearly killed them when they were separate, so they're just gonna have to fight together. One of the cyborgs cuts into Logan's stomach, and Creed laughs, telling him, "Haha, looks like you're getting slow." And then the cyborg punches him. Creed starts to get back up and telling him, "This is stupid, I'm getting out of here." Logan then watches as Creed runs and he says, "Aw, crap," and he follows close behind. Once he catches up, he says, "You know, they do have tracking skills, but they don't have our experience. So I'm a bit curious as to how they would follow us if we went into a box canyon." A short while later, along the ridge, one of the cyborgs begins to sniff, but when it gets Logan's scent, he leaps out, cutting off its head. Creed grabs it, and before Logan can tell him not to, the head self-destructs. Logan shouts, "We needed it alive!" And Creed tells him, "Shut up, there's more coming." Back a ways, 2 of the cyborgs locate the scent, but they notice it everywhere. One says, "It's a trap," and they begin to take out clothing and change back into their human forms. Over in the bushes, Creed and Logan watch, and Logan mentions that he caught a whiff of the new skin, and it's their scent. They stole their blood, and he kind of takes that personally. Creed looks at Logan and he tells him, "I really hate you right now, but you're lucky I hate those cyborgs more." Meanwhile, back at the unclassified location, the scientists get to work on their experiments on Warpath. The next morning, Logan and Creed sit in a diner watching the cyborgs as they try to locate them. But then they see them renting a car. Creed points out, stating that they're driving, not flying, which means they have no fancy sci-fi jets. The 2 exit the diner and Logan begins to tell Creed what they should do when Creed starts to walk off. Logan asks what's he doing, and Creed points over to the gun store, telling him that he's gonna do some shopping. Inside, the cashier says that they have bigger guns, but there's normally a lot of paperwork that comes with that. And Creed holds out a fist full of cash, telling him, "I got all the paperwork you need right here." As the 2 cyborgs leave, Logan and Creed wait until dark and they sneak into the car rental place. Logan says that these places have GPS in their cars, so now they just have to follow where this went. And later, over in California, Nina Thurman, the mutant Domino, rides a boat feeling the water. And she quietly asks, "Now? No, now? No, now!" Domino then jumps into the water and swims down to a clam and tries to open it up, revealing a coin. After swimming back up with the clams, she tosses them onto the boat and the 2 men call out to her, and they say that they're a little lost. Domino points off into the distance, telling them that they can just follow the shore to get back to the docks, and one of the men says, "Thanks. But while we're close," a claw springs out into Domino's boat, and another cyborg shouts, "How about you die now?" as the cyborgs begin to climb onto Domino's boat. She grabs her guns from underneath the floorboard and jumps to the other boat, firing. As the bullets begin to bounce off, the cyborgs open up their hatches and they point several guns back at her. They jump back onto their boat and she leaps onto hers, kicking open another floorboard filled with grenades. After tossing all of those grenades, Domino jumps into the water as the explosions go off, and while underwater, she watches as the cyborgs fall in and they claw their ways back up. Domino shouts, "Really? We're running out of boats here." And then another explosion goes off. Speeding up from behind, Creed laughs, holding out a smoking RPG, and Domino shouts, "Logan?" Another explosion goes off, sinking the boat that the cyborgs are on, and Logan starts to help Domino up onto theirs. As she begins to dust herself off, Creed says that she's a hot one, and then Domino pulls a gun on him, telling him, "Yeah, super hot right now." Logan tells her it's all right, we're working together. There's a bunch of cyborgs hunting mutants, so you in? And Domino says that she was working some carefree mercenary work and they just lost her $250,000 in gold doubloons. So heck yeah, she's in. Meanwhile, at a classified location in Washington, D.C., a man looks at the reports and says, "The cyborgs can't swim?" And the doctor says, "Given the amount of adamantium, they are extremely heavy, so right now, we need something incredible. We're gonna need to merge them with the Hulk." However, not only did the scientists think that they should get a hold of the Hulk, known as Amadeus Cho right now, but so did Logan, Creed, and Domino. Amadeus explains that right now they are off the Gulf of Mexico, and there's a group of researchers using an oil rig as a research facility for Weapon X. There has been a small group of scientists who are regularly seen there, and that's who they're going to try and capture. Once the plan is set, Amadeus leads the charge towards the facility by dropping out of the Olympus Group airship down onto the oil rig. He smashes into the rig, and the others provide support fire while the rest of them can land. After destroying the top forces, Creed says, "That was a little too easy." Amadeus tells him that those cyborgs are probably an early batch. The real threat is deep inside. However, before Amadeus can get in, the rest of the cyborgs make their way out and they all begin to attack. Logan gets stabbed and Creed shouts, "What the hell is this?" And he jumps on top of Amadeus, telling him, "Look me in the eye." And when he does, Creed fires an assault rifle into his face, telling him, "Get mad already!" Amadeus rips through the horde of cyborgs, screaming, "You shot me!" And Creed laughs, telling him, "That got him going, huh?" Amadeus then pulls apart the floor for everyone to make their way inside, and as they get into the lab, they see the test tubes. Domino sees the Eureka's tube and says, "Please don't make her regret this," and shoots the glass, freeing her. Logan then gets Warpath out of his tube, and then he runs straight into a group of cyborgs, tearing them all apart. Domino helps Eureka, and she extends her nails, and Domino shouts, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we're here to save you, and are you okay?" Eureka tells her, "No," but she knows things that'll make this better. She then sees the group of scientists, and they run back and close the reinforced door, locking her out. Creed hands Eureka his jacket and says, "I'll give you a hand," and he rips the door off. One of the scientists shouts that the lab has been compromised, and Eureka jumps stabbing into his chest. Another scientist begs, "Please, don't kill me." And Eureka says, "I don't remember you crying when you were cutting into my flesh." The scientists tell her that she heals in seconds. They could never. But Eureka grabs her, shouting, "I could still feel it." She pulls back her head, and Amadeus grabs her, telling her, "You're not gonna kill anyone. We're supposed to be the good guys." Amadeus then looks at one of the scientists and says, "I know how we can make things right. Tell me who your boss is." Meanwhile, at that classified location that we've mentioned multiple times in this storyline, the shadowy figure says enough of this, and seconds later the rig explodes. The blast incinerates all of the scientists, and Logan says, "Every time we get close, something always blows up." Amadeus tells them they just murdered their own people, but we can't be stopped now. This place was a facility for extracting DNA where the cyborgs are being made somewhere else. And Logan says, "Well, I got one question. Who still wants a piece of those?" Back over at the classified location, the doctor explains that they did succeed in getting the Hulk sample. "Well done, Reverend Stryker." And Stryker tells Carla, "Don't give me credit. This was God's will." On a long street of highway, one can hear the birds chirping as they fly by. That is until you begin to hear the sounds of two men running. Logan falls closely behind Wade Wilson, shouting, "Damn it, Wade, I told you!" But before he could finish, a van is thrown on top of them. The van begins to burst into flames, and as Logan claws his way out, he continues, "Told you not to!" And then a tank is thrown on them. Wade gets out of the wreckage, stretching, as a semi is then thrown, and then from the fire, Logan says, "Damn it, Wade, I told you not to double dare them!" At that moment, a burning plane falls towards the ground, about to crush Logan and Wade. But how did our heroes find themselves in this mess? Well, it all started 2 days ago in a New York subway. As a group of thugs get on the train, one smacks a book out of an older woman's hand, and the leader of the group shouts that that's enough reading, Granny! The woman picks up her book, sighing, stating, "Kids today, I would pay good money to see someone slap some sense into them." and the passenger next to her asks, "What you now?" Wade pulls down his paper and then asks, "How much money exactly?" So after punching the leader of the thugs through his newspaper, he shouts, "It's hard-hitting news!" And Wade continues beating the thugs and throwing them out of the train. Wade then leans back into the train asking the old woman if they can settle that bill, when suddenly Wade is pulled out by an older man. The train doors shut and Wade shouts, "Hey, wait! That grandpa just cost me money!" And that's when Old Man Logan looks back at Wade before running up the stairway to leave. Wade runs after him, telling him, "Wait, I gotta talk to you!" And as Wade jumps down in front of Logan with his swords drawn, Logan swipes at the blades, cutting them, telling Wade, "Get lost, kid. I got better things to do." Logan hurries on ahead and Wade asks, "Better things? Kid?" Up ahead in the park, Wade jumps in front of Logan again, shouting, "I want a do-over! I lost at least $25 because of you. The least you could do is apologize." But Logan takes his claws out again, telling him, "Move." And Wade tells him, "Make me!" So Logan charges at him. Wade slices into Logan's chest, and Logan slashes, cutting down the second sword. Wade then looks at the two broken blades and says, "It's a good thing I buy these things in bulk." And he stabs the two of them into Logan's shoulders. Logan shouts, "I'm gonna rip you to pieces!" And he punches Wade in the gut, stabbing into him. Wade jumps back out shooting, saying, "You got too much red meat in your diet. Let me introduce you to some lead." Afterwards, Wade jumps back up and into a tree, which Logan then cuts down, causing Wade to fall out, and the tree then falls on him. Logan walks up to Wade, telling him, "That's always been your problem. All bark and no bite. See? I can make jokes too." Then there's a scream off in the distance. The two of them look over to see people running away from a girl who seemingly set the area on fire. Wade gets back up asking, "Who's the dork?" And Logan elbows him in the face, telling him, "None of your business." Wade stumbles back shouting, "If you think you're gonna go save that girl, then screw it. I'm gonna go help her before you, and I'm gonna go help the hell out of her." The two fight their way towards the girl, with Logan calling out to her asking, "Do you need a hand?" And the girl gets up running away, telling them, "Just leave me alone." Logan and Wade begin to follow, and then a hot dog stand suddenly falls in front of them, and then bicycles. Logan shouts, "You clumsy idiot." And Wade says, "Really? Clearly you're losing your sight in your old age if you think I did that." Logan then stops and tells Wade, "Shut up, I'm starting to hear something. As much as I don't want to say it, I'm gonna need you to go after the girl. Something else is coming." Wade tells him, Fine. Can't believe I'm gonna miss the old Logan. I mean, the young Logan. The one before you!" Wade runs off and a large helicopter descends, and a voice over the intercom shouts, "Target located. Acquire the weapon." Just then, the armed soldiers drop out of the helicopter, and Logan runs up, ripping the group to pieces. Eventually, the soldiers begin to overwhelm Logan, and as they pin him down, Logan asks, "Is that all you got?" The man starts to walk down out of the helicopter, telling the soldiers to fan out and find the others. And then he looks at Logan and he asks, "Where's the weapon?" Logan yells at him, "I got your weapons right here, pal!" The man holds up a tablet with a picture of the girl, telling him, "No, you idiot, the girl. Where is the girl?" But as the man steps off of the helicopter, he looks at Logan and he tells him, "I know all about you, just didn't expect you to be so old. Anyway, you may address me as Agent Hart from Genform Enterprises. And back to the topic at hand, where is the girl?" Logan says, "You mean the girl that's been getting away while I've been distracting you?" Suddenly he pops his claws, lifts himself up to headbutt Hart, and then he kicks him back, telling him, "I know for a fact that the girl doesn't like talking to strange men." The soldiers begin to shock Logan, and Hart calls out that they don't have time for this. "Everyone back into the helicopter and find me the girl!" Logan starts to get back up, still twitching from the shock, and he says, "That could have gone better. Maybe Wade will look out for the kid after all." Meanwhile, up ahead, Wade runs up to the girl, pushes her down, yelling, "Out of my way! Wickedy wild! Wilson looks out for number one!" As the girl falls into a pile of boxes, Wade quickly stops, stating, "Oh, crap!" And he lifts the girl up, telling her, "I'm sorry, I forgot I had to save you to stick it to stupid hairy face. So, Precious, what's your name?" And the girl tells him that it's Maddie. "And you really suck." Wade throws Maddie into a box and then he yells to the soldiers chasing them that "You are so interrupting our conversation here." Wade then kicks one of the soldiers headfirst into a pole, telling them, "And don't be so rude, my dude. Use your head." Wade then takes out his gun, shooting the soldiers in the face, shouting, "On guard!" But after shooting a few soldiers, Wade stomps and sighs, stating, "I really miss my swords. Hall & Oates, they never let me down." But from above, more soldiers appear and they begin to fire down on Wade and Maddie, and from the helicopter, Hart tells them, "Report! You have to take back the weapon alive!" Just as the soldiers begin to respond, a slight gurgling sound can be heard, and Logan holds up one of the soldiers with his claws, telling Hart, "You better stop while you have some men left." Hart responds, telling them, "That is not an option, Weapon X. We have a mission, and I'm going to complete it." Logan pulls his claws out, telling Hart to just drop it. The kid's innocent. And if I see you again, you're dead. Logan then drops the walkie-talkie, and Hart tells the other soldiers to be on high alert. Weapon X is loose. Consider him extremely dangerous. As the soldiers respond, Logan has already jumped off the roof as he was ready to kill more soldiers. Up ahead in the alleyway, Wade stops and tells Maddie that he's pretty sure that they lost him, and Maddie asks, "Who the hell are you anyway?" Wade asks, "How do you not know who I am? I'm Deadpool, the lovable bird with a mouth, poop jokes, chimichangas, etc." Maddie stares for a moment and then says, that's a hard pass, I'm out. Wade tells her, "Listen, you're in danger and I gotta help you. It's my duty as an ex-Avenger, and also because it'll seriously bug Minnie Eastwood back there." Maddie then asks, "Isn't he your friend?" And Wade tells her, "He's more like a co-worker, one that I really hate." Maddie stops Wade and tells him, "Look, I don't know what else to say. You need to get lost. I know what I'm doing. Now leave me alone." And Wade yells back at her, Fine, but only if you do something first, and that's take this little miniature Deadpool figure. If you're ever in real danger, you can just use that." Maddie takes the figure and tells him, "Right. This just got really weird. But who?" Suddenly up above, a metal spear appears and it's thrown into Logan's back as he's jumping down to the two of them. Wade says, "Hey!" And then he's hit by a flying motorcycle. Maddie sighs and says, "I warned you, you should have left me alone." And then she begins to run off. A few moments later, Logan and Wade start to get back up, and Wade tells him, "Man, I feel like I've been hit by a truck." Logan pulls the spear out of himself, telling him, "You were just hit by a motorcycle. Anyway, that kid needs help. She's in way over her head." And Wade tells him, "I agree, but Miss Sweet 16 isn't gonna let us help her." Just then, more soldiers begin to run at the two of them, and a few moments later, Wade and Logan escape on the motorcycle that hit Wade in the head. Logan cuts off the arm of the soldier that grabbed onto the bike, and Wade then asks, "What does he want with the girl anyway?" And Logan explains that the girl's an Omega-level mutant. Her power lit up Cerebro like the 4th of July. She's gonna need proper training, and the Xavier School can give her that. And Wade then asks, "So what are her powers then?" And Logan tells him she's a teleporter. It looks like she can only teleport objects, not people though. It looks like the Gen 4 mopes want to make a weapon out of her. But we've been through this mess before, haven't we? Wade tells him, "Yeah." And Logan tells him, "All right, something we can agree on. Now let's hurry and get to the kid." After making one more turn, the two catch up to Maddie, and as Logan shouts to her, she turns back yelling, "I already told you to stay away! I'm fine on my—" But then from behind a car, a soldier steps out tasing Maddie, and soon Hart's helicopter touches down. Wade yells, "Faster and furiouser, here I come!" And he speeds up to catch the helicopter. As the helicopter unloads hundreds of bullets, Wade tells it, "Okay, that didn't go as planned." And that's when the helicopter begins to escape, with Wade getting back up telling Logan, "Just so you know, this is your fault." The next day, Logan follows Maddie's scent, and Wade goes on explaining a story about these nuns that were really ex-special forces, so he beat the crap out of them. Logan then stops Wade for a moment and pops a claw, cutting Wade's vocal cords. And Logan simply says, "That's so much better." Wade tries to speak, but with his throat cut, he ends up spitting blood all over Logan, and then Logan asks, "How could you even be more annoying without talking?" However, below in the underground facility directly beneath the two of them, Hart gives the order to prepare for a trial run of the new weapon. While the two walk and Wade's throat heals, a mound of earth begins to push up out of the ground, and within it are a group of soldiers. Wade yells, "I heard a bunch of weirdos like to kidnap girls, but if they're so tough, why are they hiding in a hill?" Logan tells him, "Don't." And Wade continues taunting the men. "I dare you. I double dare you to do something." The rest of the ground begins to open up, and suddenly a jeep is thrown at them. Wade pushes Logan out of the way, and then he asks, "Where the hell did that come from?" And Logan sighs, stating that they're walking into this like a bunch of amateurs. "This is just a test site." Wade then says, "That can't be good, so what do we do now?" Logan tells him, "We run." Which now brings us to the beginning of our story, in which several vehicles, including a plane, are being dropped onto Logan and Wade, with Logan shouting, "I told you not to dare them!" A short while later, though, as Wade begins to open up his eyes, he sees Maddie. She tells him, "Man, you guys suck." Wade says, "Man, I'm just having a terrible dream. So, how are you doing?" And Maddie tells him it's pretty bad. She's being tortured by lunatics. And Wade yells, "Don't worry, that's why I'm here to rescue you." And she asks, how exactly are they going to do that, seeing as they are now stuck in prison with her? So do they have any idea what it's like to be poked and prodded, to be a lab rat? Wade takes off his mask, and Maddie looks at him going, "Oh." Just then, Logan begins to wake up asking, "What the hell is that smell? It smells like sweaty chicken, like a giant moist Band-Aid." And Wade clears his throat, shouting, Wade looks back at Maddie and says, "You can teleport things, right? How about you just teleport us?" And Maddie tells him that she can only affect objects, not living things. She's tried. So Wade tells her, "Sure you can, you just need to focus really hard." And Maddie says, "Fine." She begins to focus. Her eyes go white and a small cactus appears, and Wade yells, "I knew you could do it!" And Logan sniffs and says, "That's actually a fake." He pops his claws and he says, "We're gonna see how tough this door is against adamantium." As Logan walks and slashes at the door opens up, an electric prod pokes him and shocks him. He's then dragged out of the room, and Maddie asks, what are they supposed to do now? And Wade says, I got an idea, and you're probably not gonna like it. Moments later, outside of the cell, Wade screams in pain, and Maddie shouts that there's something going on with this guy. The guard runs in, asking what's going on, and Wade yells, I've made a huge mistake! However, as the door closes behind the guard, it's suddenly kicked off its hinges, and Wade tells himself, alright, can ruin this. Wade walks out, having Logan's claws, and yells, Schnuck! Damn it, Schnick! Logan leans up from the examination table that he was on, asking, Schnuck? And Wade asks, what's wrong with Schnuck? Schnick is in need of a reboot anyway. He then jumps into one of the scientists, stabbing him, asking, how about a new catchphrase then? It's stabbing time! While Wade goes all Wolverine, hacking people to pieces, Logan then asks, why does Wade have my claws? And Maddie tells him, well, he wanted to help, so I teleported them. Logan says, right, well, do me a favor and give them back. And get me out of here before Wade does something crazy, or rather crazier. Wade pulls the claws out of another scientist and looks at another and asks, how many pieces can I cut you into? He pulls back and begins to punch into the scientist with the claws, but before the claws can stab, Wade ends up just punching the man in the face. He then begins to ask, what happened? And Logan screams as the adamantium is put back onto his bones. As the scientist hits the button to open up the door, Logan tells Wade, take the kid and run. Wade grabs Maddie and jumps over the next group of soldiers, and Maddie asks, what about Grandpa what's-his-name? Wade tells her he'll be fine. It's everyone else that should be worried. Once the two are clear, Logan begins to rip through everyone that is within arm's reach. Cutting off, stabbing, slicing, stabbing, more cutting off. Once the bodies and the body parts hit the ground, Logan stops and he sniffs. I can smell you, Hart. From the pile, Hart holds up a file, telling him, you don't understand. You don't know what she is. Her file. Logan runs up, picking up Hart's body with his claws, slamming him into the wall, and Hart tells him, listen. And he whispers something into his ear. Logan pauses and then says, I'm sorry. This is some mess that we've gotten ourselves into. The least I can do is put you out of your misery. Meanwhile, back with Wade and Maddie, Wade asks, so have you ever tried teleporting a person? And Maddie tells him to just drop it. The exit should be right over here, but it's not. So Wade tells her, crud! And the door before them opens up with more soldiers behind it, with Wade adding, double crud! What I wouldn't give for a pair of swords right now. Suddenly, swords appear in Wade's hand, and he says, oh, I could kiss you right now! But I'm not that sort of criminal. And Maddie tells him, gross. As Wade begins to cut down the soldiers, one manages to grab Maddie and put a gun to her head and tells Wade to stand down. Maddie looks at the gun and makes it disappear. And Wade then stabs into the man's throat, telling him, that's teamwork! So now let's make like a tree and open this door so that we can leave. And then a voice tells him, no. Logan walks up all bloodied and bruised, shards of glass sticking out of his body, and he tells him, the kid stays here. Wade says, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be rescuing the girl, not leading her to an impending doom. Logan tells him, yeah, that's not happening. I saw her file. She's too dangerous. She's volatile, unpredictable. Should have listened, but I was too stubborn. Wade takes out his sword and lunges at Logan, and Logan asks, do you think I want this? And then he punches Wade in the face. Wade reaches for his gun, stating, I just think that you can't handle this. Well, you can cut it out now. And Logan proceeds to cut his hand off. And Wade shouts, that's not what I meant! You literally just disarmed me! While the two go back and forth, hacking away at each other, Maddie shouts, will you just stop? I never asked for help from either of you. Her eyes begin to glow and there's a flash of white, and then suddenly everything around them begins to look different. Wade says, see? I knew you could teleport people. And Logan tells him, try and catch up. She didn't teleport us. She went and teleported everything else. Up above the three of them is the chunk of earth that the facility was on, ready to fall back on them. Wade looks up and says, well, we better get the hell out of here. Maddie, do something. She tells him that there isn't anything that she can do. Logan looks at her and says, you could teleport us, isn't that right? And Maddie says, uh-huh. Logan says, look, Cerebro sent me here to stop you before your powers became too dangerous, but that's already happening. So go ahead and get us out of here before we're flattened. Maddie asks, us? Okay then. Suddenly, both her and Logan disappear, leaving Wade in the hole. Wade looks up at the falling rocks and shouts, you have got to be kidding me! A second later, the entire facility falls on Wade. A few hours later, the rubble begins to get pushed aside as Wade pulls himself out, stating, wow, well, that was easy. Talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place. As Wade drags himself out, he sees Logan walking towards him and he yells, thanks a lot for leaving me to rot. Logan doesn't say anything, and Wade goes on talking to himself, basically. So, Wade, how have you been? Oh, I've been totally fine. Been crawling under a massive base all day. Logan looks at Wade and tells him, no more playing around. And Wade asks, what did you do? Where's Maddie? And Logan tells him, just drop it, stay away from the girl. The Wade tells him, that ain't gonna happen. Now get out of my way. Logan pops his claws, shouting, make me! The two start stabbing and cutting at each other, with Logan yelling, will you just stop and listen? Hart told me the truth before he died. Maddie led them to Gen form. She sat back and watched without even blinking as we killed all of those people. There's something wrong with her. We've been trying to save her, but she didn't want to be saved. She's a killing machine just like us. I tried to shut her down, but I failed. Let's flash back to moments after the base fell. Logan shouts asking, "Why did you take Wade?" And Maddie tells him because she knows about him and he'll be okay. You, however, I'm not so sure about. Logan asks, "What is that supposed to mean?" "Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're coming with me to the Xavier school." But before Logan can grab Maddie, she says, "I can teleport people, but there's one problem." And suddenly Logan falls to his knees in pain. She says that she's sorry. She told them to leave her alone. Back when her powers started showing, she could just think about something and make it appear, including people. The problem is, though, that whatever she teleports dies. She watched as she brought her dad home from work and he died right in front of her. Wade didn't deserve that, but you do. You deserve it because what you're about to do to me. And I'm telling you now, once and for all, back off. Come at me again and you'll regret it. See you, old man. Or not. I really don't care at this point. Logan tries to stand back up, stating that he should have put her down when he had the chance. And then he coughs up blood, screaming in pain. Now, back in the current time, Wade says, "Wow." And Logan tells him, "Yeah, I've been trying to heal ever since. She learned the hard way that teleporting people kills them. And they made her." Wade tells him, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. You mean you made her? Either way, she's kind of our responsibility now, right? She needs our help." And Logan sighs, telling him, "I'm not so sure." And Wade goes on telling him, "Look, maybe I misread the situation. Maybe." Logan then tells him, "I can't blame you. I'm guilty of the same. We should probably just get going." "Aw, we're becoming friends. Do me a favor. Fist bump?" Logan looks at Wade as he holds his fist up and then he smiles, fist bumping Wade and stabbing into his fist. 2 months later on a farm in Idaho, a man takes his bags into a barn and he shuts it down. As he does, a voice calls out to him, "Hello, Hart." And Hart looks back stating, "Hello, Maddie." Maddie, now with a new look and shorter hair, says that she's heard that he's been looking for her. Well, she came here to tell him that she let them experiment on her. It was so that she could learn more about herself, and he could never come looking for her. Maddie's eyes begin to glow, and from Hart's chest, blood begins to appear. And Maddie goes on stating, "Those other two, they best not make the same mistake as you." And with that, Hart's body lifelessly falls to the ground. It's been a long time since Star-Lord Peter Quill has been on Earth. Things are completely different from the last time that he remembered it. He lounges around his apartment in nothing but his sweatpants, and he tells Abigail Brand that he has plenty more beers if she'd like to join him. Abigail tells him that it's not even 11 in the morning and he's already a complete mess. After kicking his feet off of the table, Abigail throws him her shirt, telling him to get dressed. The only reason that he is not in custody of Alpha Flight is because he saved the planet. She then hands him a cell phone, telling him that she has pre-programmed all of his known Earth associates, so try going out for once. Peter looks at the phone and he sees that he only has 2 contacts, Howard the Duck and Kitty Pryde. After staring at Kitty's contact, Peter decides to call Howard. For those of you guys who don't know, Peter Quill and Kitty Pryde were intended to get married until the entire incident in which the Guardians disbanded happened. Kitty went off to go join up with the X-Men again and kind of just left Peter there. After a short conversation with Howard, Howard tells him, "Let me get this straight. You're depressed and you're lonely. How about you try being trapped on Earth as a duck? Boo-hoo, Peter Quill, go to an art gallery or something. Maybe there's someone who will mistake you for a Greek sculpture, and then you can get all the attention that you so desperately need. Bye." And so Peter does just that. After listening to some old woman tell him about Van Gogh, Peter hears a familiar voice across the hall. When he looks over, he sees Kitty with a group of her students, and he asks her what she's doing here. One of the students says, "Ooh, it's the boyfriend." And Kitty snaps at him, telling him that Peter Quill is not her boyfriend. Now go look at some life-changing masterpieces while she talks to her friend. Peter nervously says, "Look, I know we broke up, but I'm stuck here for a while and thought maybe we could hang out. Nothing more." She tells him, yeah, about that, she's actually really busy with the X-Mansion being an actual limbo. And is that your gun? How did you get it past the metal detectors? Kitty walks off saying, "You know what? Forget it. I have a lot to take care of with real children." And Peter shouts, "Wait, I'm trying not to be creepy or anything." But a voice tells him, "You know, bub, you kind of are." Peter looks over to see Old Man Logan and he says, "For the love of God, how did you get past the metal detectors?" Logan tells him, "Look, you're raising your voice in an art gallery in front of children carrying a gun. You best keep on walking." Peter leaves and he heads back to his apartment trying to call Howard again, but a beggar asks him for some change. He says, actually, he does got some, but before Peter can hand over the change, the beggar says, "Actually, I'm fine. Gotta go." Peter sighs, telling him, "God, everyone hates me." And then Logan's voice tells him, "Actually, it's because of me." Peter asks, "What is this, part 2 of Big Brother Logan? Are you here to fight or something?" Logan leans in, telling him, "I've got no desire to knock you out, but you going unconscious is not entirely off the table." A short while later at a local bar, Peter sits with the beer, telling Logan that this isn't exactly what he thought it would be. And after several beers, he says that he's got to hit the can, he'll be right back. When Peter leaves, Logan sniffs the air and notices a man is about to pull a gun on him. And as he points, Logan jumps up, swiping away, cutting the man's arm off. Peter steps out of the bathroom, zipping up his fly, telling him, "You know, I used to go in space
space adventures, and then a glass is thrown against the wall next to him. He looks over to see Logan fighting against a group of thugs, and he jumps in the brawl, telling him, "Wow, I'm glad I'm trapped on Earth instead of some dangerous unknown part of space." The two start swinging, and Peter tackles one of the men to the outside, and another calls for some reinforcements. Logan jumps out asking Peter if he's up for this, and Peter laughs, "Haha, I live for this." The two jump in, and the thugs open fire, and a stray bullet hits one of the bystanders. Logan's eyes turn white with rage as he rushes at the group of men. Peter runs over to help the woman that was shot, but as he does, he sees a pair of headlights, and he quickly takes out his element gun, creating a pillar of stone, causing the car to crash into the side. Peter helps the woman up, and the cops surround Peter, shouting for him to drop his gun. Peter puts it down, telling them, "It's cool, I'm one of the good guys, like, save the universe a bunch of times, good guys." One of the officers grabs Peter, slams him into a patrol car, telling him that he doesn't care if he's Captain America. He's under arrest. The next morning at the Manhattan Criminal Court, Peter tells his lawyer, "No, I will not autograph your paper with the headline of me getting arrested." The judge bangs his gavel down, saying that he would appreciate the defense not interrupting Mr. Murdoch's closing arguments. But before Matt can get back to his statement, the courtroom bursts open and Abigail walks in, stating that she understands that there are vigilantes in the courts that they turned a blind eye to. For example, Daredevil. Abigail and Matt lock eyes. Abigail then steps forward, stating that she is Abigail Brand, Lieutenant Commander of the Alpha Flight Space Initiative. Mr. Krill here has saved the universe and is temporarily on Earth as a guest of Alpha Flight. And though they understand ignorance of the law is no excuse, he did help people. So please allow Peter back into their custody. The judge sighs, stating that it seems like every day there's something new pushing the boundaries of their antiquated laws. But fine. Mr. Quill, you are ordered to pay a $10,000 fine and contribute 100 hours of community service. Abigail then pulls Peter aside, telling him that this is the last time that she bails out his beautiful butt. 2 weeks go past, and Peter tells the receptionist of the Winter Homes Retirement Community in New Jersey that he is from the Golden Friends program to see Edmund Allen. The woman says that Mr. Allen is in Unit 207. Please do not burn down the building or anything. And Peter says, "I don't have any superpowers." After heading upstairs, Peter knocks at Edmund's door, and Edmund pokes out, stating, "Just go away. I don't need you." But Peter lets himself in, stating that actually the courts need me here. So tell me about your days gone by. Edmund sits in his recliner, stating, "I'm going to kill him. My son Greg signed me up for the stupid program out of his own guilt for not visiting. I'm perfectly fine on my own." Peter tells him, "Well, you're not according to the court, so how about we go out?" A short while later, the two head outside, and Edmund asks, "What are you supposed to be, some disgraced astronaut?" And Peter tells him, "Not exactly, but close enough. I'm just a guy who likes adventure. So how about we go on an adventure?" Edmund shakes his head, telling him, "Nope, I've had enough adventure for a lifetime. It just comes like a tornado and it tears your world apart." Peter tells him that he wasn't gonna ask him to go bungee jumping or fight Dr. Doom. I was suggesting ice cream or something. But before the two of them can go on, there's a loud crash, and Peter runs over to see 2 men robbing a bank who just happened to crush their own getaway car. Peter says that he can't stay here and watch. He's got to, and then a voice shouts, "Not so fast, jerks!" Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, jumps in, grabbing and disarming one of the men, stating that she's surprised anyone would rob a bank in New Jersey. "She's all over this town!" Edmund says, "Look, it's a real superhero. We should just go." And Kamala grabs the other guy and says that the rocks are on the outside and there's no explosion, so how did they blow up the bank? Suddenly, a rock is thrown into Kamala's back, and Mind Blast shouts, "It's easy when you Mind Blast!" Peter quickly jumps in, tackling Mind Blast, and Kamala shouts, "You should run! This is insanely dangerous!" And Kamala leans in, asking, "Wait, are you Star-Lord? The guy with no superpowers and his trusty senior citizen sidekick who also has no powers? I'm literally a child who can't even vote, and I know that this is incredibly irresponsible. Go back to Star Cave or whatever it is you do while I take care of these people with my superpowers." As Kamala walks off, Peter says, "That was pretty fun, right?" And as they head back, Peter notices a bag of money on the ground. Edmund says that they should just leave the bag of trouble, except now the bag is gone. As the two of them get back to Edmund's home, Edmund sees that his door is already unlocked. Peter charges in to see a man going through Edmund's things, and he grabs him, but Edmund shouts, "Wait, that's my son Greg." After letting go, Greg asks, "This is who you sent? This is Space Lord." And Peter says, "Actually, it's Star-Lord. And hey, I'm not the one breaking into apartments here." Greg pushes Peter to the side, stating, "The manager let me in, since I am the one paying for all of this." And Edmund shouts, "Without my permission." Peter storms out, telling him, "You know what? Father-son squabbles is kind of a trigger for me, so I'm gonna go." And Greg yells, "Yeah, you better leave." Peter turns back to argue with Greg, but Edmund stops him and tells him, "Greg, look, if you want Peter gone sooner, then you're gonna have to give him a job at your little bar. The faster Peter pays his fine, the quicker he'll be gone, so how about it?" 3 days later, Peter meets up with Greg and tells him that he's sorry he's late. He's used to traveling millions of miles per second without a funny stench. The subway system's been hard to get used to. Greg says that you better get used to being faster. My boss doesn't tolerate lateness. The two walk into a dark alleyway, and after being let in, Greg says, "Welcome to the bar with no name. Try not to get killed." 3 weeks go by with Peter having no problems adjusting to the villainous crowd that frequents this bar. After punching Jigsaw, he tells Javelin that he's sorry about that guy, and she says that she could have handled it herself. Once the shift is over, Peter heads home, and Greg stops him asking, "Are you gonna go see my dad? If so, tell him this is for him." Peter says that he could do it himself, but Greg says that they should just stay out of each other's lives. Father-son stuff, you know? Peter grabs the trash, telling him, "Yeah, I get it. My dad left after knocking up my mom and then tried to kill me as an adult." Greg tells him, "That's pretty dark. But, given any thought to what I asked you earlier?" Peter says that he's flattered that he wants him to stay permanently, but once his ship is repaired, he's off this planet. As Peter walks down the alleyway to the dumpster, he tells himself, "Look, I'm finally making something for myself." And then as he drops the bag into the dumpster, he sees a shadow and quickly elbows hitting the person. Daredevil stumbles back and then he jumps in kicking Peter. The two begin to fight, and as Daredevil pins Peter down, he says, "I got word from the DA that you were supposed to be staying out of trouble." Peter coughs, asking, "Is everything illegal on this planet? Element guns and garbage disposal? But attack a guy in an alleyway while wearing a mask, that's totally fine." Peter gets up and he walks off saying, "I will be sure to never take out the trash again." But Daredevil stops him asking, "Where's the money?" Peter stops asking, "What money?" And Daredevil shouts that you and Miss Marvel stopped a bank robbery and the police are short $4,000. I've heard stories about you. But as Daredevil goes on, Peter walks off telling him, "I don't have to listen to this. I've saved the universe a bunch of times. That goes to the top of a resume, you weird ninja." As Peter walks on, a crowd starts to gather around Daredevil and he throws him a card telling him, "If you hear anything, call me. And get a better job too." Peter looks at the card and says, "Wow, that's some nice embossing." Later that day, Peter goes out to see Edmund and the two take a walk into the park when Peter sees an ice cream truck and says that he hasn't had some since forever. Edmund walks up and asks for 2, and as Peter reaches for his wallet, Edmund tells him, "I got this, don't worry about it." Peter grabs the cones and notices that Edmund has a lot of money in his wallet. When the two of them get back to Edmund's apartment, Peter tells Edmund that he couldn't help but notice how hefty his wallet has gotten. And in other funny news, it turns out that there's a fair amount of money missing from that robbery. Edmund stares for a moment and he says, "Look, nobody got hurt from me taking it." Peter says, "That's not the point. People think that I stole it." Edmund then goes into his drawer and he pulls out the money, handing it to Peter, stating, "I figured, though I already did buy some stuff like ice cream, so there's only like $3,200 left." So later that night, Peter calls up Daredevil to return the money, and Daredevil says that he will see to it that it gets to the DA drop-off point since his friend mistakenly took it, but he will need his name to keep an eye on him. Peter shouts, "Come on!" And then he sits down and says, "Fine, it's Edmund Allen." Daredevil goes on and then stops. "Wait, did you say Edmund Allen?" Elsewhere, at this time, a patron of the bar with no name, Diamond Head, wakes up asking, "Where am I?" A female voice tells him that he really shouldn't have been spilling secrets about the bar. "Thanks to you, I've been getting the drop on these jobs before them." She also realized that you can be more useful than just getting me information. Black Cat stands over there with one of Diamond Head's legs, telling him, "You're actually a resource yourself." Back at Edmund's apartment, Peter asks Daredevil if he's really supposed to believe that Edmund is some sort of supervillain. Edmund gets up from his recliner stating, "Cat burglar, supervillains are idiots." Edmund then tells Daredevil that he quit the game after he barely got away from him during his last robbery. He looks at a picture of his brother stating that he always swore that he would stop it if it got too dangerous. And Peter asks, "What, so you have powers?" And Edmund tells him, "No, I have a suit that came out of somewhere or sometime, who knew? It was my brother's job to figure that stuff out. All we knew is that it was something alien, and the suit could just go places, more specifically the boots and the gloves. One day when my brother was working on the suit, the men that he worked for killed him because he wasn't telling them his findings. So using the boots and the gloves, I killed his employers, and with no one knew, I took off the boots and the gloves." Daredevil says that he robbed people, and Edmund says, "Look around, does it look like I'm living the high life? I gave most of it away already." Daredevil shouts, "It doesn't matter. You broke the law." And Peter stops him, telling him, "Look, I spent years traveling through space, so I legitimately do not care about your laws here. Just leave the harmless old man alone and let me handle this. Shouldn't you be punching drug lords and not star lords?" Both the men look at Edmund, and Daredevil leaves stating, "If you step out of line once." Peter then turns back to Edmund and he says that he thought that he was above it all, but all he did was end up shutting everyone out. This is what life looks like on the other side of bad decisions. Later that night at the bar, Shocker asks Peter if he could tell him about Diamond Head. You see, a few nights ago, Diamond Head left the bar and he heard a scuffle. When he went outside to check on it, there was no one there, so he's just worried. Peter stops him, telling him, "You're just worried that whatever happened to him might happen to you, right?" And Shocker shouts, "Yeah, or no. Well, I'm just worried about Diamond Head too. I'm complex." Peter tells him, "Fine, we'll go out back and check around to see if there's anything left behind." So Peter puts on his mask and Shocker watches and says, "That's some real Iron Man right there." And Peter shouts, "Oh my God, stop talking."
Peter starts to scan the area and he finds some diamond dust along the walls, and he says that this looks like there was a fight here. Shocker asks if he thinks that dust is worth anything, and Peter goes on completely ignoring that comment, stating the trail stops at the street, so it looks like Diamond Head maybe was captured. Peter takes off his mask, telling him something happened and I could really use the distraction. So, I'm gonna go save Diamondback's life. Shocker tells him it's Diamond Head. And Peter says, whatever. He walks back inside telling Greg to go over the security footage, and Greg tells him that is not good for business. Peter tells him nope, or maybe Diamond Head, but let's see. As the footage plays, Peter says that everything happened in the alleyway where the camera is not facing, which means whoever did this knew how to not be spotted. He can, though, make out the license plate, so he's gonna make another quick call. Over at a gym, Abigail picks up her phone asking, what, you run out of shirts or something? And a short while later, Peter and Shocker head over to the address to where the license plate was registered to, and they see that it's a giant warehouse. The two sneak in, and Peter says that they should split up, and Shocker says, no effing way! Strike the numbers! Just like when I was in the Sinister Six! Peter says, yeah, and how did that work out? The two head down the hallway towards a light, and when they open up the door, they see Diamond Head's head and foot on the table. Before Peter could do anything, Shocker pushes Peter down, telling him to duck! And soon Black Cat's men run in swinging. As Peter fends off against the attacks, he sees Shocker taken down, and he runs over grabbing his blaster. One man grabs a hold of Peter, and another swings a bat at him, so Peter hits the blaster, launching them both into the wall. His vision then begins to fade, and as it comes back, he sees Black Cat telling him that he's a pretty handsome renegade bartender, isn't he? Not so sure about the beard, though. Peter says that he'll take that into consideration, but who the hell are you? Felicia leans down smiling, telling him that I'm your boss. My name is Felicia, but people call me the Black Cat. Peter tells her that he would like to file a complaint with HR, and Felicia laughs, saying that she owns the bar, so. See, the bar business has given her some valuable information, allowing her to take over the city, and she's going to need him for a little something. You're about to break into the apartment of our next target, the wealthiest denizen of the little bar, and if not, well, you have someone close to you, right? Peter runs over to Edmund's apartment, and as he bursts in, his phone goes off, and Felicia says, no, it's not the old man, but you will need him, because he will help if he wants to get his son back. The next day, Peter watches Edmund as he walks into the building across the street, stepping on air, and he asks, so you just had these magic boots and gloves lying around the whole time and you never told anyone? Edmund calls back that these things breed secrets, and those secrets cost him his wife and distanced his son and broke their trust, something that he might not yet get back. Peter sulks, telling him, I would actually be surprised. Edmund walks back, telling him the only reason he's doing this is because of Greg. Can't he just call those superhero friends of his? Peter tells him that Felicia made it very clear that if she spots anyone breaking into Javelin's penthouse, Greg gets it, but he has a few ideas. Meanwhile, later that night at the bar, Felicia stands on top of it, telling everyone that she's afraid she has an announcement to make. People here have been selling the secrets of the individuals at the bar, which is a clear violation of the rules, but don't worry, she has dispatched Mr. Quill and Mr. Allen, because there's a traitor among them, someone named Javelin. Everyone gets up and surrounds Javelin as she tells them that they do know she's playing them all, right? All of the villains move in on Javelin, and as they get close, one of them has 3 claws shoot into his back. As the man falls, Logan says that he really needs to stop drinking at bars. Meanwhile, back at Felicia's warehouse, Greg asks one of the guards if he can bite of that sandwich. The guard tells him there's no way that he's giving him a bite of this $12 deluxe pastrami, and then he laughs. And then there's a thud. When the guard turns back, he sees his partner knocked out and Daredevil smiling through the shadows. Over at Javelin's penthouse, Edmund begins cracking the safe, and he finds an envelope, a small bag, and a book. Before they can grab the contents, the door opens and Felicia walks in, stating that she didn't want them to have all of the fun. She grabs the book, and Peter says that he doesn't get it. She's a master thief. Why get them to break in? So Felicia tells him that that's true. She could have done this herself, but she runs things in this town, and it's all about delegation. Peter then asks, what is it that she wanted to steal anyway? Felicia starts flipping through the book that she took. She says that Javelin is a good thief. She keeps up-to-date notes on how to break into pretty much anywhere that counts. Edmund shouts that he doesn't give a freak about her monologue. They did what she asked. Now let Greg go. Felicia leans in, smiling. Oh, Edmund, I'm going to need an experienced thief to go through all these addresses, and I'm afraid that Greg is going to be staying with me a bit longer. Suddenly, 2 batons are thrown, knocking the guns out of the guards' hands, and Daredevil jumps down from the ceiling while Peter wastes no time punching out the guards. Peter grabs his phone and he calls Abigail, stating that they are clear, shut it down. And just as he hangs up, Felicia jumps over him and out the window, and putting on his mask, he says, "Nuh-uh, lady." He hits a switch on his belt, rocketing through the glass ceiling, jumping onto Felicia. He then shouts, "I've been stuck on this planet, arrested, I'm having a terrible love life," and Felicia then asks him, "Why do you even care? You're just a bartender." Peter runs in, telling her, "But I'm still Peter Quill, damn it. I guard the galaxy, including bars, penthouses, and people." As the two start their fight, a light is shined down on them, and Abigail radios out that she's going to assume that he wants to arrest her, right? Felicia quickly kicks Peter back and jumps off the ledge of the building, and as Peter runs over, he sees Edmund standing there holding Felicia. She screams for him to let her go, and he says that he has no choice. These gloves, they lock in and they don't move. She isn't going anywhere. But before Abigail can get to them, Felicia
crawls up Edmund and grabs his throat, telling him that he should never have crossed the Black Cat. She then kicks Edmund as Abigail's men fire, and Edmund falls from the sky. Greg shouts for his father, but Edmund already passed out when he landed on the car. A few days later, Peter wakes up and he gets ready for Edmund's service. There isn't many that came to the cemetery, and as the service finished, Greg told Peter that he really appreciates him coming out, but please don't think that there is any more that he could have done for his father. Everyone knows that Peter Quill did everything he could for Edmund, and now he died thinking that Peter stops him, telling him, your dad loved you, and he would have given his life 10 times over to save you. As everyone leaves, Peter is given a letter. A short while later, Peter walks into Javelin's penthouse asking, you beckoned? Javelin says that she's glad that he came on such short notice, and Peter tells her that he must admit it's a bit weird considering he did just try to rob her. Javelin goes on stating that she's well aware of the position that he was in, wanting to save Gregory and sending James to protect her. She also has heard about his recent troubles with the law and the fine that he has incurred. She would like to pay him for it. As Javelin's hand creeps up Peter's thigh, he says, wait, are you trying to seduce me? Really, that would cross 3 things off my sexy bucket list scenarios. Javelin bursts out laughing, stating, you're far too young for me. And a voice says, yeah, you just learned how to grow a beard, bub. Peter turns over to see Logan wearing one of Javelin's robes, asking if there's any milk. And Peter shouts, who's the kid now? Logan tells him, milk's good for the bones. Which Peter yells back, your bones are covered in metal and you heal instantly. Logan tells him, man, you're awfully pissy today. And Peter says, it's not that, I'm just not happy. Nothing about what happened makes me happy. As Logan goes on to make a joke, he tells Peter, you got your ticket out of here. Why not just go endanger some other seniors? Peter turns back and punches Logan in the face, telling him, screw you! And then he pulls his hand back in pain. Ha! Metal skull! Peter continues swinging and beating into Logan until finally Logan grabs him and holds him in place. And Peter sighs, telling him, you're not letting me go, are you? You just provoked me because you thought I needed to fight someone other than myself, huh? Logan tells him, yep, you won this one. Saved the kid, saved Lynn, all paid up. Yes, there was a cost, but it wasn't your fault. You just need to learn to forgive yourself and move on, bub. That's just life. Peter hugs him, and after a moment of silence, he says, your robe isn't open, is it? And Logan says, yeah, it is. Later at another bar, Rocket Raccoon slams his glass down, stating, this one is so disgusting too. The bartender says, you just tried half of our specialty cocktails. Perhaps our drinks are just not for you. Please leave since you're clearly an animal here on your own. Rocket shouts, look, my owner is in the can. I'm a service raccoon for an owner's anxiety and you can't legally kick me out of here. So just give me another beer. Peter walks up telling him, thank God my anxiety is still here. And what on earth, and I literally mean that since you are still here, are you doing in this gaudy restaurant? Rocket tells him, it had a bright sign. Plus I thought that this was like Flapper Doodles on Kramer 6. Rocket then takes a drink from his beer and he says, look, I'm still not ready to talk to you. You really screwed things up. Peter tells him, I know, but there's something I want to say though. I'm sorry. The Guardians are my family. The bottom line is I should have trusted you. I should have told you that Thanos is right here. I just didn't want to loot. Rocket jumps up on the table and he shouts, damn right! You think you could just waltz around like you're the leader and leave us all to be the king and then come back to be our leader again? Rocket leaves the restaurant and Peter asks, what is it I can do? And Rocket looks back at him and tells him, it's just time. Sometimes it's not our enemy. As he walks out, Rocket grumbles, of all places, he still finds me here. And then he looks up at Abigail stating, of course, it was you. Abigail walks in and the waitress welcomes her, asking if she would like, and Abigail tells her no, never talk to her. She pulls Peter outside and he says that he couldn't help but notice that nobody confiscated the murderous space raccoon's weapons. And Abigail asks him if he ever tried to take away garbage from a raccoon before, let alone his guns. Peter tells her good point and Abigail's just switch teleporting them away and she tells him welcome to Alpha Flight, aka her office. Peter looks around asking, does this mean that he got a job here? And Abigail shouts, never. However, you can have your element guns back. The reason I brought you up here was to tell you that we've caught enough of the bro off to know this place isn't your home. Your home moves, it's got a hull, controls, and weird friends. So take your guns, get a ship, get those friends, and get the heck off my planet.
Deep in the cellar of a maximum security super prison, 2 guards get ready for what's about to come through that door. One of the guards asks if it's really him. And after the 2 hear a man screaming on the other side of it, the second guard says, yeah, it's him. The second guard says that they really don't pay them enough for this kind of crap. And 3 claws begin to tear through the door. Seconds later, Logan rips the rest of the door off and he jumps through, grabbing one of the guards, telling him, I need to get to the lower levels, so open up the rest of those blast doors. The other guard fires his shotgun into Logan's back, so Logan turns to him, telling him, that was a big mistake. The 2 guards open fire to slow Logan down, and then a man piloting a mech suit steps out, telling Logan that he's not sure why he's here, but he better stand down. Logan jumps to the suit and he begins to shred through it, saying, I really don't take kindly to orders. After grabbing the man out of the mech suit, Logan pops his claws into the man's neck and he tells him, you can either lose your head or tell me which way to go to the lower levels. The pilot points at a door, trembling, and Logan tells him, good boy, and he tears through it, leaving the guards behind. 9 days earlier, in Ileana's chambers, she tells Logan that he's got to be kidding. He wants her to send him back to the wastelands, the same post-apocalyptic, incredibly tragic, and soul-crushing wastelands from whence he came. The same place where everyone that you know and love is dead. And Logan says, almost everyone. And Ileana says, who? The Hulk baby? One of Evil Banner's broods? Ileana then asks, I thought you left him in a safe place. And Logan says, I did, but I don't know how safe being what Danny actually is. It's only a matter of time. Ileana snaps her fingers, telling him, that's the other big problem. Time. It isn't as simple as using my powers to send you back or forward. The other problem is that the future might not even be our future. Logan tells her, that's why I came to see you. And Ileana grabs Logan by the shoulders, telling him, I'm sorry, but every time that we mess with time, things go bad, so just stay here. Logan then tells her, you know me, and you know that I won't stop until I find a way to get back. And Ileana tells him, I know, but my answer is no. You're gonna have to find another way. Back in the current time, Logan heads down the hallways of the prison when he feels a web stick to his shoulder. He turns back to see Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Miles asks, what's the matter? Did they run out of rice pudding in the X-Men's cafeteria again? Logan cuts the web and telling him, this isn't your fight. You might want to back off when you got a chance. Miles swings in, kicking Logan, telling him, this is my fight now. Those webs are not cheap. And why would you want to be breaking into a prison for supervillains? He webs up Logan's feet, telling him, let me guess, it's because you got some grudge against a baddie in here and you're gonna go provide some grim and gritty justice. Close? Hot or cold? Logan steps forward, ripping the webbing apart, telling him, I'm not here to hurt anyone. And Miles swings in again, kicking Logan, telling him, yeah, tell that to the 24 guards that you just slashed up. The two begin to battle it out, and Miles tells him, come on, tell me what's up, because these hero versus hero stories are getting really old. Maybe I can even help you. Logan pops his claws, telling him, trust me, ain't no one left who's gonna help me. 8 days earlier, and each day after, each person who could possibly send Logan back told him no, including Dr. Doom. But as the fight goes on, Miles says that he's gotta hand it to him. He moves pretty quick for an old guy. Logan turns back, telling him, you're just as mouthy as the other Spider-Man. And then he cuts through the lock. And Miles asks, what are you? Uh-oh. Logan cuts the last lock, telling him, yeah, uh-oh. And all the villains begin to walk out of their cells. While Miles tries to fight off the released criminals, Logan goes down the pathway until he reaches the man that he's been looking for. And as he walks into the cell, Osmodius asks, I do not know who you are. I am the Scourge of Satan. I am one who walks with the night, slayer of angels, prince of dark magic. Logan holds out his claws, telling him, I know exactly who you are, and I'm here to make you an offer you can't refuse. Osmodius asks, what is it that you want? And Logan grabs him by the neck, telling him, I did my homework on you, Mr. Charles Benton. Files say that you zapped Hawkeye and Wonder Man back to the medieval times. So right now, I find myself in need of a man with those type of particular set of skills. As he lets go, Logan asks, so what's it going to be? I can get you out of here and then you zap me back to where I need to go. Osmodius falls to the ground, coughing. Surely your friends would have helped you. And Logan says, yeah, they thought it was a bad idea, which is why I'm resorting to a piece of scum with no morals. Osmodius sits up, telling him, if I could use magic, I wouldn't be here. I need many of my artifacts, objects of power. Logan pulls out a backpack that he was hiding under his jacket, and he takes out a costume and a scepter. And Osmodius says, those were taken by the Avengers long ago. Logan tells him, yeah, I may have taken them from Doctor Strange, so do we have a deal or not? Osmodius shouts, what do you want, a blood oath? Fine, we have a bargain. The man is thrown outside of the cell and Logan says, we may want to hurry up. My little distraction has almost run its course. Miles with the rest of the security guards walk in and Miles asks, who the heck is that? Osmodius shouts, I am Osmodius and I walk in the shadows. I am the Scourge of Satan. And Logan cuts him off, telling him, yeah, put a sock in it. Let's just get out of here. Osmodius sighs and then creates a portal. Fine. In a flash of light, Logan and Osmodius step out and Logan asks, where are we? Osmodius tells him, New Jersey. Stephen Strange did not find all of my weapons and tools. There are many still hiding here. Logan asks him, so, hiding is a low-rent storage locker in Jersey? And Osmodius tells him, yes. We all don't have Xavier Mansions or Sanctum Sectorums, now do we? Logan cuts the lock and pulls out the unit and he says, I can really smell the mold here. As Osmodius begins to go through his boxes, Logan says, I want to make one thing clear. I need an escape hatch, something for me to bring with me, like a time limit. Osmodius tells him, yes, I've gathered that much. I just need to find it. I know I had it with the National Geographic. Aha! A few moments later, Osmodius finishes setting up the makeshift ritual in the storage locker, saying that this is so much easier with someone willing. A few moments later, he holds out an amulet stating, this will keep you tethered to this time and place. The spell will only last for 4 days though, which afterwards you will be returned here with your body. Logan asks, what do you mean by body? And Osmodius explains, it's your consciousness that will be traveling. You will inhabit your own body in the past. Logan says, I'm not sure I like the sound of that. And Osmodius tells him, well, that's how the spell works. So, do you want to go back or not? Osmodius then opens up a box and sets out a knife, and Logan pops his claws. Osmodius tells him, relax, I just need to get a bit of your blood for the spell. You can heal, right? Logan holds out his hand and he cuts into Logan's palm, draining the blood into a small cup. As he drinks it, Logan tells him, that is disgusting. And Osmodius tells him, I need to do it if you want to return. It's blood magic. He then leans forward, placing his hands on Logan's head, telling him, I just need to look into your past a bit to know where to send you. Logan's consciousness slowly begins to lift out of his physical body, and soon the ritual is over. As he starts to get back up, he tells him, I must confess, I may have fudged the details just a bit. I didn't say which part of your past I was going to be sending you to. Elsewhere in the timeline, Logan wakes up in a pile of snow covered in blood. He starts to look around thinking, this isn't where I left the baby. Which part of the wastelands did you send me to, Colorado? As Logan takes a few steps out, he sees a bunch of soldiers slaughtered, scattered about. Before Logan has a chance to move, a rifle is held to his head and a man tells him, you better stop right there, you filthy savage. Shortly after, a colonial man rides up on a horse, telling them all, it looks like we finally got the jump on you. The Canadians' best assassin is now our prisoner. Logan thinks to himself, crap, it's 1812. Logan is led through the snowy woodlands and he starts to remember what this is. It's the War of 1812, and he can't remember what happened next. He's then thrown into a cell as General Macmillan walks in telling him, this man doesn't look so dangerous now, does he? Macmillan looks down at Logan and asks, why do you think I had my men scouring the woods for you? Is it because one of my soldiers you just butchered back in the Battle of Detroit was my son? Macmillan pulls Logan's head back, slashing away at his face without saying a word. Logan growls. Everyone watches closely and they see the wound on Logan's face begin to heal. And Macmillan shouts for everyone to get out, lock the cell. Captain Everett holds out an amulet and he says that they also found this near the prisoner and it's glowing. Logan spots the amulet, the only way that he'll be able to get home, and then his claws pop out. He knows that if there's any chance for him to return, he's gonna be with that amulet. He rips through the chains and the cell bars, and he charges at the soldiers. All of them begin to open fire, and as Logan leans back up, all he can do is growl. While Logan fires at the soldiers, Macmillan begins to escape with the amulet. Logan tears his way through running after Macmillan, and then he tackles him to the ground, taking back his amulet. After getting away, he looks at the glowing amulet, and then his spiritual body is taken back out and sucked right back into the time stream. He thinks that maybe this nightmare is over, and then the darkness and the pain sets in, and it's pain that he's never felt before. But then he remembers. He does remember this pain. And after working up the courage to open up his eyes, he knows exactly where he is. Weapon X. However, as Logan does open up his eyes, he sees the amulet floating next to him. He desperately swims, trying to grab at it. The scientists outside shock Logan to stop him, but he continues to try until he finally catches the amulet. The time stream opens back up, and he's pulled back out of his younger body, off into another version of himself in the timeline. Meanwhile, in the proper time, Osmodius tells the henchmen from all of the different organizations that he is now in possession of a weapon deadlier than anything that they could have ever known. He'll start this off by asking, how much will each of them pay for this man? Back with Logan, his eyes open up and he sees the yellow and the blue costume, which is much better than floating around in Weapon X. And that's when he hears the sounds of trees snapping. He looks up to see that he's in the middle of the fight between the Hulk and Wendigo. Logan remembers that this is the first time that he ever went up against Banner. Between those two giant things is the amulet. Of course, that's where it is. Logan brings out his claws and he jumps into the middle of the fight, shouting, Wolverine is coming through. Hulk shouts, little man jumps around like rabbit. Stand still or Hulk smash! With a single swipe from the Hulk, Logan's body is thrown through the trees. But rather than fight off the Hulk, he cuts into Wendigo. The Hulk then punches Wendigo away, telling him, Hulk doesn't understand! First little man fight Hulk, now he fight Hulk enemy! Logan doesn't respond to him, and instead he jumps past the Hulk, grabbing at the amulet. The Hulk knocks Logan back into the ground, and he grabs the amulet asking, What this? But not knowing what the amulet is, the Hulk tosses it off into the woodlands. He then digs into the ground, pulling out a giant boulder, and he says, I will show Beauty Man how strong Hulk am! Logan rolls around, cutting into the Hulk's leg, and he runs into the woods where the amulet fell. Just as Logan grabs for it, the Hulk jumps down right onto his back, and he begins to pound. But before Logan can lose the feeling in his body, his soul is zapped into the time stream. He opens his eyes again to see that he's not in the woods, but in Central Park, the place where, oh no, he can feel the fiery heat, and then he hears Jean shouting that she is fire and life incarnate. She is now and forever Phoenix! She blasts everyone away with a fire blast, and Logan gets back up trying to reason with her, hoping that this time things might be different. He looks back at the amulet and he reaches out calling for Jean, and that's when the giant Phoenix appears. Logan watches the Phoenix leave, and with a heavy heart, he picks up the amulet, wishing to be anywhere but here. With another flash of light, he opens his eyes to find himself in Japan, right in the middle of a ninja ambush. The claws come out and blood and limbs fly everywhere, and when it's all said and done, Logan says that made him feel better. He holds out the amulet, ready to jump yet again, and then he stops, saying that there's one more thing that he has to do. He jumps from rooftop to rooftop until he finally opens the door up to see Mariko. She asks if everything's alright, and he kisses her, telling her, Alright, now I can go. He pulls himself out of the water, gasping for air. The smell of the sewers. He would know that smell from anywhere. He was back in Madripoor. Back in the current time, one of the Hive agents asks how can they be so sure that they don't have to worry about Wolverine returning. An AIM agent says that they'll pay $1 million. They need proof that he's not there. Osmodius smiles, telling them fine, and he takes out a dagger, stabbing it into Logan's chest. Of course, his body doesn't move, because over in the past, he yells as his body feels that pain. But before he has a chance to even think about what just happened, a young boy skates by, stealing the amulet. The boy weaves through the crowds as Logan runs through, knocking everyone over, and then he turns into the alleyway after the boy. That's when he sees nothing. Then a group of men ask what a hairy barbarian is doing in their alley. Logan looks at the men and he thinks to himself that he doesn't have time to deal with any Yakuza, but it seems he won't have a choice in the matter. He calls out to the leader, Dragonhead, telling them that if they're looking for death, he'll deliver. Dragonhead gives the order to shoot, and all but one of the men light up Logan. That one single man looks at Logan's body, telling him he's toast. And then the schnick can be heard. Logan jumps out of the trash, telling them, You took your best shot. Now it's my turn. Within seconds, the alleyway is littered with bodies and blood of the dead Yakuza, and Logan asks Dragonhead what about him? Still a tough guy? Dragonhead runs off, and he notices the patch that he was carrying fell out, and he says screw it, and he puts it back on. A short while later, he catches up to the boy who stole the amulet, and he happens to be sitting and eating a bowl of noodles. Logan asks how are the noodles, and the boy gets up to run, so Logan grabs him, telling him, not so fast. The boy asks, what is this thing? And Logan tells him, who knows? Freaks me the hell out too, but I gotta go. He grabs the amulet and he's brought back into the time stream, and then he blinks. As he does, a baseball whizzes by and Bobby shouts, strike! Jubilee yells, how could that have been a strike? That pitch almost took off his nose! Logan looks around and sees himself at Xavier's mansion, and he quickly turns to Bobby, telling him, you gotta listen, I don't have much time. He yells that he needs to remember the address, 123 Bleecker Street in Jersey. The date is... But before he can tell if Bobby heard him, he's brought back into the time stream. He then falls face first in the sand, and he feels old. He looks out at the sandhills and he says that this is it. He's back in the wastelands. He's back home. He walks down to his old house and he grabs the doorknob, thinking he really should. He already knows what he's about to find. Nothing. As the door swings open, there's Scotty, Marine, and Jade, just like they were before. He tries to process what he's looking at, and Jade asks what he's holding. He looks at the amulet and he steps on it, telling them, it's nothing. I think this is... I'm home, and I'm never going back. Later, the light begins to shine into Logan's room, and Maureen says morning. So, what was that all about last night? He says he, just missed her, that's all. And then Maureen gets up telling him, well, she's not going anywhere. After breakfast, Logan and Scotty head out into the farm to get the tractor up and running. And Logan thinks how he had forgotten how this was. Just being with family, doing normal things. As the hood was closed, Logan tells himself that he came back for Banner's grandkid, but instead he got so much more. This is so real. This is real. He's home! Over in the current time, though, Osmodius continues his business when suddenly shards of ice begin to shoot into the walls. Bobby slides in with ice claws, telling him an old friend of his said to come here on this day. Jean then breaks in through the glass and tells Osmodius to release Logan for whatever that spell he's cast on him. Osmodius says that he can't,
And Gene asks, what do you mean that you can't? Osmodius says, I lost contact with Logan's consciousness. He's lost in time. Back in the past, Maureen comes out and tells Logan that she really is a natural, huh? It's like Jade was born to ride. Logan looks out to see Jade riding a horse, and Scotty says that she really shouldn't be out there. Today is payment day. Just then, a ship flies down onto the field, and one of the Hulk gang members says, she looks cute. Another one tells her, if you say so, but I've never really trusted redheads. Logan runs up asking, what do they want? And the banners tell him, you should know why we're here. Rents due. Logan says, you'll have it soon. Go into the market to do some trading. He then clenches his fist as he thinks that he can do something about it this time. All he has to do is bring out those claws and he can gut them right here and now. Except the claws, they won't come out. One of the banners punch into Logan while the others begin to stomp on him. And he thinks to himself, that's it. That's the catch. He can't change anything while in the past. He's gonna watch them die all over again. A little while later, after getting patched up, he sits on his steps and Maureen asks, how are they gonna pay them? He says that he'll go to the market and trade some of their tools. And then Jade calls out, stating that she felt sad when they hit him. She went ahead and fixed up the pretty necklace. Logan looks at the amulet, stumbling back, weighing the options. Leave this place or lose them all over again. Logan tells Jade to give him an extra big hug and tells her that he loves her so much. He holds the amulet, stating that one day he'll come home and find them dead. But not today. Today they're alive. And this is the best day of his life. Back in the current times, he gasps for air and Bobby asks if everything's all right. Gene helps Logan up and Logan looks at Bobby and says that he's impressed that the ice pick remembered. Bobby says, you know, I'm not just a pretty face. What should we do about Osmodius? Logan tells him to toss him back in the hole where they found him. I'm going for a walk. He walks out to the pier and he thinks about how the last year all he's been doing is running around trying to find a way back home. But while he's been trying to forget them, he'd forgotten about the good stuff. The way that Maureen would always seem to just wake up just before he could. How Scotty always knew what tool was needed and never wanted to wait to get his hands dirty. And even how Jade's breath felt warm on the back of his neck when she hugged him. The past will always be with him, but his life is here. His life is now. And with that, Logan takes the amulet and throws it into the river. Since returning to the current times, Logan has decided to take some time to himself and do a little bit of traveling, which is what brought him to Toad River. He parks and he stops at a local diner and then he smells the air and he can tell that something is off. He hangs his jacket and Logan asks the waitress, where's Lexi? And the waitress says, oh, it's her day off. How about I get you some coffee? Logan sits at the bar telling her, sure. And as he looks around, the waitress begins to pour a cup when Logan grabs the waitress by the arm. Logan pulls her close and tells her, there's never been a Lexi who worked here. This place has been run by the same couple since the 60s. What'd you do to them? The cook jumps over the bar tops telling him, it's no use pretending anymore. It's still a family business, just a different family and a different business. He then tells Logan, you took something from us, something that we can't get back. But it's not like we've ever personally met. But you do know my brother, Billy Bob. Billy Bob walks out telling Bew, I'm not sure about this, I got a bad feeling. Bew doesn't even respond and continues talking to Logan. Do you remember stealing Billy Bob's clothes and leaving him in a cave? Logan stops and tells the group, I don't know what kind of stunt this is. This isn't possible. The claws come out and Bew's face begins to change into a Hulk and he says, oh, but it is. Everyone begins to transform into Hulks and Bew shouts, you killed our paw and you ran off like a little rat. Hid yourself in a whole nother dimension, but we found you and we're gonna kill you. Seconds later, Logan is knocked out the diner window as one of the Hulks jumps on him. Logan punches his claws straight into this Hulk's face, and then he thinks to himself that he killed the Hulk gang back in the wastelands, all except Billy Bob. He should have never let him walk. The female Hulk quickly slams Logan down and the rest begin stomping on his body, telling him that it was easier than they thought. But just as they stop, Logan jumps to his feet, swinging upwards, tearing into another Hulk. Bew then kicks Logan back and Logan lunges back, stabbing into him, and then ripping through the last Hulk. With the 4 Hulks dead, Logan walks back into the diner telling Billy Bob, you aren't going anywhere. All I want to know is how. How did you get here? Billy Bob begins to panic, stating that their paw, he found them, but before Billy Bob could finish, Bew grabs one of the fryers from the back and pours it onto Logan. Logan's flesh begins to melt away, and the first thing that go are his eyes. So all he can do is smell his own sizzling flesh, and then he turns to swing before he turns into a puddle of skin and bones. Logan swipes into Bew's neck before falling, and as Bew shouts to Billy Bob to help him, Billy Bob tells him, no! And he escapes. A short while later, at the Department H weapons facility, Billy Bob crawls his way in and a man named Maestro asks what happened. Where were the trucks that him and his brother were supposed to be getting? Billy Bob says they tried to get him. They had him, Logan! We tried to get him for what he did to Pa, but he killed everyone and Maestro shouts, what? You set off as a personal vendetta after I told you not to?
As Maestro yells, his body changes into a Hulk, and he smacks Billy Bob, telling him, "The blood of 4 lives are on your hands." He starts to grip down on Billy Bob's neck, and Cambria yells for him to stop. They've already lost 4 lives. Losing any more won't help. Maestro tosses Billy Bob, telling him, "Now we're short-handed, and I must assume that we are no longer operating in a veil of secrecy. Load up the trucks with as many missiles as you can get." As everyone leaves, Maestro grabs Cambria, telling her that her allegiance to her brother is admirable, but if she ever defies him in front of the others again, they will be sharing a grave. Back at the diner, Logan finally regenerates enough to get up, and he looks at the bodies, and he sees what they should have looked like, and he tells himself, "Keep it together." He then smells some of the blood left behind and can tell that those 5 weren't the only ones. There are more. A lot more. And when he finds them, they're gonna wish they stayed in whatever hellhole they crawled out of. Later, at a remote Yukon territory, Maestro walks up to a compound and the armed guards tell him that if he's lost, best be going somewhere else. Maestro says that he's heard that this was a good place to go if people wanted to get off the grid. They are in need of such a place. All of the other guards start to point their guns, telling him that he better turn around before they shoot him where he stands. Maestro's eyes glow green and he tells them, "I said I needed this place, so we're gonna take it." As he finishes saying that, a swarm of Hulks jump out of the woods and they descend on the base. Back at the Department H weapons facility, Logan pulls up to find the place reeking of Hulk with no signs of any of them. This facility was supposed to be cleared out of his nuclear weapons, but that isn't the case. Banner's kids are too stupid to know what to do with them, but they're not stupid enough to try something. Down the road at another diner, Logan makes a call to the only person that he knows that can help him in this situation, Puck. And he tells him, "I need a favor, the kind where the person doesn't ask questions." Puck tells Logan, "Asking for a favor? Let me just mark this on my calendar real quick." Logan tells him around 6 or 7 this morning, some trucks rolled out of a decommissioned Department H bunker in the Yukon. He needs to know if they can be tracked. While Puck starts pulling the info up, he tells Logan, "You're not gonna like what's going on, but I know if you ever need help." Logan doesn't acknowledge the offer and says, "You got the location yet?" A short while later, Logan heads on Puck's lead, and as he rides, he hears something off in the distance, an unmistakable sound, and it registers way too late. An explosion goes off, destroying the motorcycle, and as Logan picks himself back up, an army jeep rolls by, running him over. He tries to get back up, but as he gets to his feet, he's shot back down by several assault rifles. One of the Hulks laughs out loud, "That's how you do it! No use getting into a punch-up match with a madman like Logan." Another Hulk punches Billy Bob forward with a gun, telling him to finish it. He owes it to his dad and the others that Logan has killed. Billy Bob takes the gun and he nervously walks over to Logan's body, but as his hand trembles, he pulls the trigger. Except, there's only a click with no gunfire, and Billy Bob asks why it isn't loaded. Why did they? But before he could even ask, the other Hulks open fire on him, telling him, "Sorry, you're not welcomed at our new paradise, Billy Bob." A little while later, Logan opens his eyes and finds himself chained to a chimney stack. The Hulk from before shouts, "Oh, look who's awake! We almost thought you were really dead this time." Logan shouts, "How the hell are you here? I killed your entire filthy inbred Hulk gang back in the wastelands." And the Hulk tells him, "Clearly, that ain't the truth, cause we're here. And thanks to your healing, we can get ours again and again and again." All the Hulks start to unload into Logan just as they did at the ambush until he stops moving. Meanwhile, back at the compound, Maestro begins his work on the nukes, and Cambria says that it's quite alarming to see him in his human form so often. Maestro says that it's not because he enjoys it, but there is something to be said for the nimble fingers of a human. Comes in handy when working on things that can blow us back to the Stone Age. "So what did you come for? Because if you couldn't tell, I'm kind of busy here." Cambria asks, "Are we really gonna go through with this? It's strange that something so small could cause so much destruction. Why do we have to kill everyone? Why not just live here away from everyone and be with our own kind?" Maestro tells her, "It's because man will kill themselves with these weapons regardless. I've seen it happen. They're already dead. All the Hulks are doing is just moving up the expiration date. We're doing this because man will never leave us alone. They will hunt and kill us just as they did to the banner of this timeline, especially after all of the blood that we've shed. The war has already begun. The only question now is, who will end it?" Cambria walks up stating that he's right. She's just worried about Billy Bob. He's been gone for a long time. Maybe she's just overthinking things. Back with Logan, he begins to wake up again, and he looks around when the Hulks ask him, "What are you doing?" Logan says, "I'm looking for a way down so I can whoop your asses." And the Hulks tell him, "You wouldn't even last a few seconds against us." Logan tells him, "Where I'm from, I used to beat your asses like a drum every damn time. All those brothers and sisters all hitting like kittens, barely even tickled." The Hulk yells for him to shut up. And Logan laughs, telling him, "I would have laughed back then too, if I wasn't too busy killing all of you." The Hulk punches at Logan, and Logan lifts himself up high enough for the hit to miss and destroy the chimney. Once free from the wall, he takes the chains and he wraps them around the Hulk's neck, and then he pulls it back, snapping the neck. The other Hulks begin to run up, but with Logan's healing factor being a lot slower at this older age, he ducks away into the barn to figure out a plan. One of the girl Hulks walks in with a minigun, and out of the shadows, he stabs her in the leg. Another one from outside throws a tractor through the building, but when they go to check on Logan, they hear something wind up. Suddenly, the rest of the Hulks are riddled with bullets as Logan stands up holding the minigun. As the last of the bullets are shot, Logan throws the large gun away, and he tells one of the Hulks that he's got more than enough time to make his death long and agonizing. The Hulk tells him it doesn't matter, he's going to make him suffer worse than anything you can do to us. Logan grabs the Hulk by the shirt, asking, "Who is he?" And the Hulk just laughs, telling him, "Maestro's gonna kill you real good." Logan pushes his claws into the Hulk's leg, asking him, "Who the hell is Maestro, and why is he trying to kill me?" The Hulk says it's not just him, it's everyone. But before he could go any further, the Hulk passes on. Logan gets up thinking that he's never heard that name before, but then again, it could be one of those anomalies between his timeline and this one, like that weird lady Thor. As Logan walks, he falls and passes back out. Later, as he begins to wake back up, he hears a voice tell him, "Good morning," and he asks, "What am I doing here?" The man says, "What? No thanks? Your friends are worried about you, and from the looks of it, I can't blame them." Clint Barton then asks, "So how about you tell your old buddy Hawkeye what's going on?" Back at the compound, one of the Hulks from Logan's ambush drags herself in, stating, "Everyone is dead. Logan got away." Maestro runs over asking, "What happened?" And she tells him, "Logan got free. Killed everyone. Tortured Horace. Horace told him everything." Maestro tries to hold back his anger, but he shouts to everyone, "We need to pack up the truck and get ready to move now." Then a voice tells him, "No." One of the Hulks steps out from the group, telling him, "We're done following you all over the place. You promised us a paradise, and all you brought us was closer to death. Enough with the hiding." Maestro tells him, "We're not hiding. We're keeping a low profile. There's more to battle than just blindly charging in and smashing the enemy. So what now? Do you think you can do better?" The Hulk grins, telling him, "Yeah, I can. And I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty." With one heavy punch, that Hulk knocks Maestro to the ground, but as Maestro hits the ground, he begins to laugh. And he gets back up, punching that Hulk to the ground. He gets up on top of him, beating on his head, telling him, "I'm gonna be laughing long after you've taken your last breath." Maestro starts to get up, leaving a bloody mess where the Hulk's head he used to be, and he asks, "Is there anyone else who'd like to challenge my leadership?" Over in Dawson City, Clint Barton asks where they're off to now, and Logan tells him, "There's no we. Us and road trips? Well, it doesn't usually end well." Clint tells him, "I get that you're like a lone wolf and all, but Puck said you called asking for help, and asking Puck for help, despite being a loner, means that things are real bad, man. Since I wasn't around the first time you got to this timeline, I'm gonna make up for it now." Logan grunts and gets in the car, telling Clint, "Fine, but we're gonna keep that chit-chat to a minimum." The two head out, and Clint says, "Look, I know I'm supposed to keep quiet, but what's the future interdimensional version of me like? Is he like a real badass?" Logan tells him, "No. He married Spider-Man's daughter and they had a kid. She then leaves you for an Ultron. Later, you get cataracts and go blind, and then you run drugs." Clint tells him, "Wait a minute, who'd you say I marry?" Meanwhile, up in the mountains, Maestro pulls over and everyone makes their last checks on the nukes. Once everyone's strapped in, Maestro tells them, "Head straight to your targets, let nothing stomp you. But before we can embark in the final step of our plan, you've all managed to rise above the butter that lesser, different banner damned you to. And for that I am proud of you, my inbred interdimensional family." Back at the compound, Logan and Clint make their way in when Logan notices all of the nukes have been dismantled. Logan says, "These Hulks, they lift a bunch of nukes from Department H." And then Clint looks around telling him, "Well, we found the missiles, so crisis averted." "What do you mean by Hulks? As in more than one? Maybe you should tell me about everything that's going on now." Logan says that the nuclear cores are gone. Other than that, he really doesn't know. And then a voice tells him that she does. Cambria steps out, and the first thing that Logan does is shout, "Where's Maestro?" Clint pulls back his bow, and Cambria says, "Please, she just wants to help. He once helped her long ago." Logan thinks back to the wastelands and how he used to have his pig stolen by this girl. And after talking with her, she stopped. Logan tells Clint to drop the weapons, and Cambria goes on stating that she used to be with Maestro, but not anymore. Logan asks, "Where is he, and how do we stop him?" Cambria says that she'll help, but he's got the children with him. They came here because Maestro promised them something better than they ever had. Some decided to continue following him even after seeing how brutal he really is. And the kids, they just don't know any better. So if I help you, you have to promise that nothing bad will happen to them. However, we must hurry. We're almost out of time. Maestro is sending out the nukes right now. A short while later, all across the globe, the world sees firsthand what a group of Hulks can do to them. Back in the mountains, Maestro drives the children, telling them to remember everything will be fine. You can survive just about anything. The bombs won't hurt. And just as he says it, an arrow hits the windshield, and Clint shouts to step out of the vehicle with your hands over your head. Logan looks at him, asking him,
really? And Clint says, well, hey, it was worth a shot. But Maestro doesn't look like he's slowing down, man. As the truck gets closer, Maestro jumps from the window in his Hulk form, quickly knocking both Logan and Clint to the ground. He stomps on Logan, telling him, I've run into others like you before. You're just a shadow of the Logan that I once knew. Logan gets up, cutting away at Maestro's feet, asking him, you really are Banner, aren't you? Just older, uglier, and balder. After Cambria told me, I wasn't sure what to believe. Every Bruce Banner that I know is... And Maestro stops him. What? Dead? Interestingly enough, I've heard the same about you. But while those two fight, Cambria tells the kids that they need to come. Maestro's been lying to them the whole time. Those bombs are not gonna only kill the humans, but even the Hulks that they're strapped to. The kids shout that she's lying. Maestro loves them, and he would never do that. Clint says that if you didn't notice, talking to them isn't working. I'm gonna trank them now. One of the children hit with the arrow rips it back out, yelling, you tried to kill us! And then he punches Clint in the face. Cambria knocks the child off of Clint, telling them that they're trying to help, but the other children tackle Cambria, telling her, you're just a coward and a traitor! Back with the Hulks across the world, they all begin to pull out their switches and detonate the nukes. But all that happens is foam begins to pour out of the tops. Up in the Alpha Flight station, Puck laughs, stating that the nukes have been neutralized, and Department H did some pretty hefty failsafes just in case. Logan stabs into Maestro, telling him, did you hear that? Your big plan to wipe out the world failed. Maestro smacks him, telling him, you can't lie to me like that, I programmed the bombs myself. Logan wipes the blood from his face, telling him, well, I got short friends in high places that tell me that your programming ain't worth a damn. Clint shouts, I've wrapped up the last kid! And Logan yells to him, get away! I'm gonna deal with Banner. Maestro charges at Logan, telling him, that Banner from the Wastelands was garbage. He had no imagination, no drive. He wasn't half the Hulk that I am. But rather than defending, Logan runs into the hit and Maestro stops and falls back, holding his insides in. Logan then starts to walk towards the Maestro with his stomach cut open, and then a voice shouts for him to leave him alone. Everyone looks back at the truck to see little Malachi holding an exposed nuclear core. He yells that if they hurt Maestro anymore, he's gonna open up the nuke and everyone will die. And Logan tells him, look, you do that and we all lose, but the Maestro shouts, do it! We're bored from the bomb! Logan says, I can see that you're not like him. You're not a killer. If you do that, there's no going back. Cambria tells him, look, listen to Logan. Maestro lied to all of you. He sent the others to die. While everyone talks, Clint tells Logan and Cambria to cover their eyes, and he fires a concussive arrow behind Malachi. Clint gets up, stating that they only have 30 seconds before Logan can reach for the core, Maestro grabs him, throwing him into a boulder, and then he picks up the core, stating, I should have left you and the rest of your worthless kin back in the wastelands. He begins to rip into the canister, but before he can, Maestro feels a dozen arrows shooting into him. Clint yells to Logan that he really could use an assist here, and then he looks over to see Logan is still getting up, and he says, well, crap. Maestro takes the wrecked truck and slams it down on Clint, and Logan screams for Clint as he runs straight in, cutting into the Maestro's stomach again. But then as he charges in and he gets close, Maestro leans back, kicking outward, launching Logan across the forest. Back with Cambria, she gets ready to leave with Malachi when Maestro takes both of his fists and slams him into Cambria's back, shouting that this is all her fault. She tries to fight back, but Maestro picks him up while they're stating, you are all wasted potential. But before the rock can come down, one of the children jump into it, and all of them begin to shout and punch that he lied to them. Before Maestro can kill any of the kids, Logan runs back in, telling Cambria to take everyone and get out of here. Logan and Maestro go back and forth, punching each other over and over until both of them can hardly stand. And Maestro says, this is it. This is the Logan that I remember. And the broken Logan says, I'm just getting started. But rather than attack, Maestro turns and says, I'll be back. And we're gonna fight again, just not today. After Maestro escapes, Clint tells Logan that he isn't gonna be winning any beauty pageants anytime soon. And Logan says that he thought that and Clint says, yeah, I thought that too, if it wasn't for Malachi over there. Cambria tells Logan that she should be thanking him for helping, but it is time for them to leave as well. Clint says, why not just come back with them? He has a whole apartment building that they could live in. And Cambria tells him no, they've helped enough. And Logan helped them back in the wastelands, but now it's time for them to start relying on themselves. As she takes the children, Logan says to just let her go. She knows what she's doing. Once he's healed up enough, the two start to walk back, and Clint says, so was that really Banner? It's just hard to not feel responsible after what we did to our Banner. It's like he's paying for it. Like this is one of his nightmares come to life. Logan tells him, he's not the only one. I killed the Banner back from where I'm from too. Only thing I can say is that sometimes you gotta learn to forgive yourself. We've all made mistakes. It ain't about the mistakes that we made in the past. Good people sometimes do bad things. It's what makes us human.
As he walked down the busy streets of Tokyo, he thinks to himself how he never thought he'd miss a place like this. Open roads, the solitude of the woods. Those are the places where Logan can relax. But there's something that he's been missing here. Probably just noise. Logan stops by a bar to get a drink, and as he opens the door, there's a man standing in the front window outside. A group of thugs follow the man out, yelling that this is Crazy Thunder territory. If he's gonna be drinking here, he's gonna be paying for their drinks as well. The man tries to get away from the thug wielding a bat, but Logan tells the thug, hey, I've had a rough week. How about we let this guy go and I'll grab a round for everyone? The thug takes the bat, cracking it across Logan's head, telling him, step off! And soon the other thugs jump in to beat down Logan. Back in the day, Logan would heal from these sorts of attacks in minutes, but now he's going to be aching for days. As the claws come out, he swipes, taking off one of the man's fingers and another's hand. One moves, grabbing a knife and stabbing it into Logan's side, but he spins back, slicing off his arm from the elbow. The man screams and starts to laugh as another arm grows out, replacing what was just missing. He then says, "You're in for it now, Yankee!" And Logan sighs, telling him, "I'm Canadian." After cutting the man's arm off again, he pulls out the claws and punches the man out, telling him that he's just gonna need a new way to take these clowns down. The last thug standing begins to back away, and Logan tells him that just because he can't cut off their limbs doesn't mean that he can't knock them the hell out. The thug says it's all cool, we're just having some fun, we won't bother you again. Logan grabs the thug by the collar, telling him that he knows the three of them ain't mutants or humans. The odds of them having the same power is too great. What the hell is going on? Meanwhile, over at the Ishida Corporation, Dr. Tuco gets ready to head home for the night. And once the lab is clear, he takes 3 vials, hiding them in his coat. Later, as he walks out to his car, before he can get in, Shingen Harada stops him, telling him that he's working late as ever. The problem is that he's been stealing from the company. Tuco shouts back, telling him, "I would never do such a thing." There must be a misunderstanding, and Shingen holds out his phone, showing a video of Tuco stealing, telling him that it's all right here. How is this a misunderstanding? Tuco falls to his knees, telling him that he was forced to. He can't do anything or he'll be killed. Shingen then shows an image of Tuco's wife and child, telling him that if he doesn't tell them, he'll send his men to his crappy apartment, and they'll be the new test subjects. Soon, the silver samurai suit begins to appear around Shingen, and he grabs Tuco by the throat, telling him, tick-tock. Tuco dangles over the ledge of the parking garage, and he shouts that it was Kenji from the Crazy Thunder Clan. Please don't kill me! Before he could finish, Shingen lets go and watches Tuco's body go slamming into the sideway below. Later, over in a warehouse, Kenji tells his men to hurry up and get everything ready for their next shipment. Tuco was supposed to be here 3 hours ago with the Regenics. The boat to Madripoor is about to leave, and there needs to be at least 10,000 vials shipped. Suddenly, Kenji hears something, and Logan walks in, throwing the guard stationed outside onto the floor. Kenji tells him, "You get lost, old man?" And Logan tells him that he ran into some of his boys earlier. The drugs that they were on shouldn't be in the hands of a bunch of drenched wannabes. But by the looks of things, it doesn't seem like you'd have the brains to come up with all of this on your own. So tell me where the drugs are coming from. Kenji calls out to the Crazy Thunders, and within seconds, they swarm around Logan. He pops out his claws, and he begins to hack away at the men, but as the fight goes on, he notices some of the men aren't regenerating their limbs. The only difference from before is the air is cooler, which would make one believe that cold air slows down the regeneration process. Once the last of the thugs are taken out, Logan grabs Kenji, holding his fist to his chin, telling him, "You have 10 seconds, where did it come from?" As Logan counts to 1, Kenji spits into Logan's face, and 2 of the outer claws shoot to the sides of his head. He tells him, "That's 2. You don't want to see 3. Kenji shouts, "Fine!" Regenics comes from some stiff named Tuco. He works in some unknown lab. All we know is where he lives. And back in the Ishida Corporation building, Shingen sits in his office when he notices a red ninja run along the outside of his window. He puts his phone down, sighing, and then he suits up into the Silver Samurai, telling him that he was supposed to have dinner with a Swedish supermodel in 20 minutes. The hand ninjas break through the window, and Shingen gets to work carving his way through the horde. While he fights, he notices a man watching, and he tells Gorgon that if he's hoping to stone him with his gaze, he's got some bad news for him. Gorgon keeps his arms folded and states that the hand has tried multiple times to unify with Clan Ishida. Each instance he refused. This is what he may call a hostile takeover. Shingen cuts down more of the ninja, stating that he's got a thing for this. Initiate sequence HA4372. Suddenly lasers begin to shoot out, shredding the ninja where they stand. And Shingen laughs, stating that that's just one of over 5,000 defensive protocols. Shingen readies himself before Gorgon, and he asks, "So this is where we fight, right?" And Gorgon tells him that he will do no such thing. He's already lost. Before Shingen can respond, he's struck from behind, and a female samurai pushes a sword through Shingen's back. She tells him, "Let go of your life. Clan Yoshida is now in the capable hands of the Scarlet Samurai." As the time comes for Tuco's memorial service, people gather to pay their respects. People begin giving their condolences to Tuco's wife Asami, and among them is Logan. The two walk off, and Asami asks if he was a friend of her husband's. But Logan says no. He came to Tokyo to see him, but he knows this isn't a good time. He was hoping to ask her some questions regarding the matter. He has resources that may be able to find out who did this. Asami pauses for a moment and then tells him that they can talk, but not here. Meet her in the Paris bar later that evening. As Asami walks off, Logan walks by a grave marker and sees Mariko's name. He takes a long, hard look at that name, and then he moves on. Later that night, Logan heads to the bar that she told him about, and she thanks him for meeting with her. Logan cuts right to it, telling her that there's no easy way to say this, but her husband had a name for himself by selling
selling Regenics on the black market. Asami says that she begged him not to do it, but he wouldn't listen. And Logan goes on telling her that he was stealing it from Shingen Harada. There's only one way that could have ended. What I need to know is about the drug. Who is he selling it to? She begins to cry, stating how Tuco was working at Regenics for years. It was supposed to be something good, but he got mixed up with the crazy Thunder Clan. And then when they found out what he was working on, they forced him to steal it from Harada. Logan asks how much of this stuff did he give them. If it spreads out too far, people get. But before he can finish, Logan notices people in the bar trying to run out, and a voice tells him, "Go ahead, finish that thought." Claws come out as Logan jumps up from the booth, and before him is Gorgon, the Scarlet Samurai, and a group of hand ninja. Logan then tells Asami to get out, but before she even has a chance, the ninja hand grab her, and Logan shouts to leave her out of this. As he steps forward, the Scarlet Samurai pulls out her sword, swinging, forcing Logan to step back. And Gorgon says that he can see it now. He's trying to figure out all the ways to save the widow, and allow him to say that she is already lost. Asami screams as one of the ninjas stab a sai into her chest, but Logan lunges at Gorgon at the sound of it. Scarlet Samurai quickly then cuts into the side of Logan's body, knocking him down. But there's something that Logan smells, death and decay, years of it. Gorgon asks, "You smell it, right? What is it? I've been waiting years for this moment. Now tell me, what is it that you smell?" Logan charges it again, thinking of cherry blossoms, and Gorgon tells him, "Yes. What else?" Next is rose water, and Gorgon tells him to keep digging. The more things that Logan thinks of, the more he tries to push them out, only focusing on the fight with the hand and the Scarlet Samurai. The more that Logan cuts away at the men, he realizes that it's the same as those thugs before. They're regenerating. Claws aren't gonna help him out here. He punches into one of the men, and the Scarlet Samurai slashes upwards, cutting off one of Logan's hands. He grabs the nub where his hand used to be, thinking about how could she cut through adamantium like it was nothing. Who is this person? He turns and tries to escape, but before he can go anywhere, the Scarlet Samurai slashes down along his back, causing him to fall. Gorgon tells him that he thought that he would have recognized it by now. Elsewhere, in the trash, Shingen groans as he wakes up and suddenly falls off of the heap on the ground. He gets up shouting, "Garbage! Those honorless bastards threw me out with the garbage! Me!" Back in the bar, the Scarlet Samurai holds her sword up above Logan's head. Then Gorgon tells her to take the helmet off first. In Logan's mind, he already knows who this is. He's going to kill Gorgon for what he's done. Logan says, "Please don't," and Gorgon asks, "What's the matter? Aren't you pleased to be reunited with your long-lost love?" Logan holds his arm up to shield himself, saying, "Mariko, don't." Mariko's sword charges up and she says Logan's name, slamming the sword down right beside Logan. Using the chance, he kicks her legs out from underneath her and he makes a break for the exit. Still missing his hand, he pushes his way through, using his left arm to cut anyone in his way. A woman stands in the path before him, but before the ninja could kill her, Logan grabs her and runs outside with her. After letting her go, he yells for her to just go. "They won't be coming after you, run!" Back inside, Mariko gets ready to make chase, and Gorgon stops her, telling her that clearly she's not capable of taking Logan down. She puts the helmet back on, telling him that she was merely caught off guard. A mistake that won't happen, but Gorgon stops her, telling her, "No, you hesitated. I saw it. We brought you back, gave you life and purpose, and this is how you repay me?" Just then, one of the ninja walked back into the bar, telling Gorgon that he's sorry, but they've lost Logan. In frustration, he breaks one of the tables and then turns back, telling the ninjas to go back out there and tear this town apart. Finding that mongrel, keep him alive. Later in the poor area of town, Logan sits in a corner, allowing time for his hand to regrow. As he sits there, a voice tells him that he looks like crap, and without saying a word, he takes his one good hand, popping the claws. Shingen sits down next to him, telling him, "Does it look like I'm in my silver samurai armor? I'm not here to fight. It looks like Gorgon had his way. Gorgon came after you." Logan asks, "How did you find me?" And Shingen says, "Tokyo is my city. I have eyes and ears everywhere. It would seem that the hand have gotten a hold of Regenics." Shingen sighs and says, "It was supposed to be something to make me richer than Tony Stark. Before, the hand only had one weakness, and that was their ability to throw soldiers at their problems. With Regenics, instead of using 1,000 soldiers, they can use 10. It was supposed to be secret until Tuco." Logan stops him, asking, "The one you killed?" And Shingen tells him, "He was lying about it. It's him that we need to blame for everything that's happening right now. The hand brought back Mariko, and when they assume that I'm gone, she would have the birthright to claim the corporation." Logan then says, "It's not just the hand who has it. There's already a shipment sent out to Madripoor for sale." Shingen grabs his head, yelling, "Crap! Regenics isn't ready!" It breaks down on its host, eating away at their muscle tissue and eventually killing them. Could be days or weeks. Logan gets up, telling him, "I know a way. You're gonna help me take down the hand, but you gotta promise me a few things. Stop making Regenics and financially take care of Tuco's kid, who's now an orphan thanks to all of this. And you do not kill Mariko." Later at the Yashida Corporation lab, Gorgon and Mariko talk when they hear a tink, tink, tink. They look over and see a canister of liquid nitrogen thrown into the room, and as Gorgon walks over to it, a shuriken is thrown into, releasing the nitrogen into the room, rapidly bringing down the temperature. Before anyone has a chance to respond, Logan rushes in, cutting down one of the ninja, and Shingen says that Gorgon put a scratch on his desk. Logan tells him, shut up! And Shingen asks why. It's bocot wood with vibranium inlay. And Logan says, this is why I work alone. Shingen jumps through a group of men, cutting them down, and yells at Gorgon, you came into my home. You killed me and you threw me into the trash. When I'm done with you, I will resurrect you and kill you again. Logan tears through another group and he runs towards Mariko, telling her that he knows that she's in there, and he knows it's hard to gain control, but she can do it. She swings her sword, pushing Logan away, stating nothing. She failed once before, but there won't be a second time. Logan yells, just think about the first time that we met. How I gave you a white flower. You have to fight this. On the other side of the room, Shingen chases down Gorgon, and Gorgon asks, how are you alive? We killed you. Shingen tells him that he has over 5,000 defense protocols. Literally being stabbed in the back was one of the first things that he planned for. There's no way that you can win. Gorgon turns and kicks out the window, and before he can jump out, he tells him, I can and I will. Next time. Back with Logan, Mariko cuts into his stomach, telling him he is nothing but a pathetic old man clinging to something that never was. Logan lays on the ground, telling her, you have no idea how true that is. I'm not here to kill you again. I've lived with that guilt for far too long. Mariko raises the sword, telling him, rest assured, he won't be carrying it much longer. But before she can strike, a sword is thrust into her back, and Shingen stands over her body, stating, you're welcome. Logan gets to his feet, checking on her, asking, what have you done? And Shingen tells him, oh please, did I not just save you from her murderous ex-girlfriend? Relax, she's still alive. There's no way in hell I would let any relative of mine die while under the hand's control. I gave her the same thing that saved my life. The wounds healed her before it was fatal. All thanks to a bunch of little nanites of my own design, though way too expensive to put on the market, a real shame. But now that I've released Mariko from their control, I figured that there's a favor in order. Logan picks up her body, asking, what is it? And Shingen tells him that he will take Mariko to Madripoor. Destroy what's left of the Regenics before the hand gets a hold of it, or worse, a competitor. This can go one of two ways. One, the hand gets a hold of Regenics and people die. Two, people use it and die, destroying the company in the process. Or three, we find the shipment, destroy it, and everyone lives happily ever after, and you and Mariko can ride off into the sunset. Either way, after that, I hope to never see any of you again.
It all started 6 months ago in the small Canadian town of Fort Wells. One night, as two locals get together for drinks, an argument breaks out. The younger man says that he needs to go back home to the wife before it gets too late. The older tells him he's whipped, can't even stay out if he wanted to. But while the two drunkenly bicker, a man sitting in the back asks if they're done being morons. He'd like to finish his drink. The older man looks back, asking if he has something to state, and the shadowy man tells him, I do. When I first came into this town, I was taken back by all the wasted potential. You have a plethora of unexploited natural resources, and yet your town is falling apart at the seams. So I'm left to ask myself, what type of fools would be blind to the opportunities here? And judging by the two of you, I now know why. The younger man says that if he wants to keep running that mouth, he's going to be swallowing his teeth here shortly. And the shadowy man smiles, stating, oh, I'm hoping for a fight. 3 months go by and a group of townspeople find themselves in the harsh winter forest just outside of the town. A little girl asks her father why they can't just turn on a flashlight. The father kneels down, telling her, we just can't. We have to be very quiet. We have to make sure the king doesn't hear us. As the group goes on, a young boy named Joshua asks why are they running? They have guns. Joel, the old man from before, tells his son that he hasn't seen what the king can do. You know, back when Tony was still alive. The man is a monster, and guns won't hurt him. We tried, and he's got some sort of healing power. You shoot him, he just heals right back up. And the woman asks, wasn't he supposed to be one of the good guys? He looks much older. The group pushes on, and as they pass by a tree, Joshua trips over a branch sticking out of the ground. Joel quietly yells, what the hell are you doing? If you make too much noise, the king will. But before Joel could finish, there's a thwack, and Joel's body is thrown against a tree with such force that he dies. Joshua runs over, calling out to his father, and behind them, the king's voice asks, did you really think that you could run? You try and run again, it won't just be one person. Now, in the current time, 2 men stand watch over the town entrance as another man walks up. One of the guards asks, what the hell are you doing here? And Logan says, I came around to see the boss man. He around?
One of the guards says that the boss isn't taking any visitors right now. If he doesn't leave right this second, they'll open fire. Logan sighs. You don't want to do that. As the second guard shoots, Logan lunges at him. He manages to throw the second man out, but the first guard knocks Logan on the back of his head with his gun, knocking him out. A short while later, Logan opens up his eyes as he tries to get up, but he feels that his neck and his arms are bound. Joshua looks at Logan and tells him, "You shouldn't have come here." Logan tells him, "From the looks of things, I have to agree with you there, but why am I here?" Joshua begins to unlatch the lock from Logan's neck and says, "You're here because we need to call for help. The police, the Avengers, whoever. Bad things are happening here. When the king showed up, he just took over, made the town work for him. He makes the women. People tried to fight back, including my dad, but the king is too strong. Just promise to come back with help." As Joshua begins to cut the rope around Logan's wrists, the guards come out shouting, "What the hell are you doing here?" Joshua tells them that this man can get them help, but the guards push Joshua back and they shove Logan out, stating, "The king will see you now." Logan steps out and he looks at the town, and he sees nothing but ruin. Makeshift shacks scattered throughout the street, people piling dead bodies in a truck. He watches and quietly says, "My God." He begins his march towards the king, and after going into the church, the king, or as some would know him, as the alternate universe Hulk, named Maestro, sits up on his throne stating, "What do we have here? I was beginning to wonder whatever happened to you after our last meeting. Did you come here to beg for forgiveness? Bend a knee to the king, Logan. Why would my guards bring in the Wolverine?" The two guards step back asking, "That's him?" Logan tells him, "I just had to sell it to your guards so that I could get close. The time for you hurting people is over. So how about you get off your damn throne and we settle our differences? We didn't finish our fight, Maestro." Maestro asks, "Is that really what you want? There's no one here to help you this time, Logan." That's when there's a snick as the claws come out and Logan tells him, "Yeah, I'm sure." The Maestro charges at Logan, knocking him into the street, and it's at this very moment that Logan realizes this was a mistake. The Maestro is weak, but he hits just as hard as the regular Hulk. Logan right now has a slowed down healing factor due to his age and due to the fact that he's just not healing properly. He even has bone claws in one of his hands. He's gonna have to hope for a miracle if he's gonna drop a Hulk in his current state. The Maestro jumps down and Logan jumps on his back, stabbing in. But the Maestro grabs him by the face, shouting, "You literal backstabber!" As Logan's body is slammed into the concrete, Maestro takes his time punching Logan over and over again. Maestro scoffs, "Well, that was disappointing. I didn't think the fight would be over that quickly." He looks back at the townspeople, telling them, "Don't just stand there. Grab a shovel and clean up this mess." A short while later, Logan groans as he wakes up in the middle of the woods, naked. As he gets up, he smells something. He runs over and he begins to dig through the snow, and soon he finds the source of that smell, a pile of dead bodies. He starts to make his way back, asking what the hell is Maestro doing here? However, as Logan gets closer to the town, he remembers his healing factor isn't what it used to be. He shouldn't have pushed himself that quickly. He collapses into the street and he's spotted by Joshua and another young boy. The young boy says that they should kill him, but Joshua tells him no. They need him to help. The young boy tells him no way. He's gonna get back up. The boy walks off. Logan tells Joshua that he shouldn't be putting his neck on the line like this. And Joshua tells him that he can't leave him out here. He brings Logan back to an abandoned house, and Logan tells him, "I had a bag with me when I came in. Where's that bag?" Joshua runs out telling Logan to wait here. He'll be back shortly with it. As moments pass, Joshua returns, tossing the bag at Logan, asking, "Is he okay?" He's looking a little dead. Logan tells him, "Nah, just feels like it." He reaches into the bag and he pulls out a small syringe of the Regenix, telling himself that he's gonna need to boost his healing factor if he's got any hope of taking down the Maestro. He gets dressed, asking, "How long have I been out? A day?" And Joshua tells him, "No, you've been out for 5 days." Silence fills the room as Logan looks at his hands. And Joshua asks, "Is that normal? Not the coming back from dead part, but how long it's taken you." Logan tells him, "No. Usually it doesn't take more than a few hours to heal, but lately. Look, a Hulk not much different than this one killed my family, and I'm gonna be damned if I'm gonna let the same thing happen here." But Maestro said that he's looking for something. He's not sure what it looks like, but it's a big machine, like something out of a sci-fi movie. You got anything like that around? Joshua tries to think, but before he could give any real answer, the two hear shouting from outside. Logan looks out to see people gathering around asking, "What's going on?" And Joshua says that the two men that brought him in, the king thinks that those two knew who he was, so he's tried them for regicide. Down below, the man's wife shouts, "You can't do this! He's a good man, he's got children!" And the man tells his wife Angie, I love you. Look after the kids for me. Maestro pushes the man forward, telling him, enough quivering. If she wants to be with you that badly, she could be hung right next to you. Maestro takes his place at the nearby truck watching, and as the executioner tightens the noose, he tells the man, I'm sorry, I don't want to do this. The man says that he knows, but either way, the king is going to kill them off eventually. Maestro shouts, asking, what's the delay? People came here for a show. Back inside of the abandoned building, Logan hands Joshua his bag, telling him, keep the summer safe, I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna stop this. Joshua looks at the bag, telling him, thanks. But suddenly, there's a bang. Outside, the executioner pulls the lever, dropping the floorboards out from beneath the two guards. But inside, the young guard from before yells, I told you before not to do this! The young boy and the other guards open fire, and a barrage of bullets knocks Logan out of the window. Maestro laughs, stating, aha! Look who decided to drop in. As Logan lays there, he slowly reaches for the Regenex. Maestro walks over, stating, I should have known better. The Wolverine doesn't die so easily. Logan starts to stand back up, telling him, this is pathetic even for you. These people can't fight back, you're just a bully looking for easy pickings. He grabs a syringe, pushing it into his arm, but before he can inject himself, Maestro smacks him across the street. He steps down on Logan's back, telling him, I quite like it here, though it's a little colder than I would want, but you get used to it. As Maestro continues stomping on Logan's body, a little girl sees the syringe, picking it up. Logan sees this and tries to call out to her, but the Maestro stomps one last time, picking him up, telling him, we're just gonna have to find a more inventive way to deal with you, Logan. After locking Logan up, Maestro heads back to his quarters, but he can't sleep. Something is off. He gets up looking out the window and sees a group of people gathering, and then the young guard from before calls out to him. He says, Angie, the wife of the man that he hung tonight. She's trying to get the people all riled up. There's going to be a revolt. Earlier, they found another trying to help Logan, Joshua. They were the ones who shot him. But before they barged in, Logan said something about some sort of machine, something out of a sci-fi movie. Maestro smiles. Did he now? Interesting. Later, at the old meat market freezer, two guards watch over Logan, telling him that he made a big mistake coming here. Why the hell would he come back after getting the whooping that he did? But just then, Angie opens up the door, stating that she needs a moment with the prisoner. The guard begins to state that she can't, but Angie cuts him off, stating that this man is the reason that her husband is dead. She has every right to look him in the face and say her piece. The guard looks back at Logan and says, you got 5 minutes, Angie. We'll leave the chainsaw there just in case. As the freezer door closes, Angie asks, can you do it? Can you really save us? And Logan tells her, I can try, but if I'm gonna have a shot, there's something you gotta find me. There was a little girl who... But just then, one of the guards opens up the door, yelling, the king is coming! We have to hurry! Angie looks back at Logan and tells him, fine, just tell me where I can find it. A short while later, Maestro walks out of the meat market holding Logan up in chains, telling everyone that it has come to my attention that some of you are not happy. Some of you still think that this shell of a man can somehow save you. It's insulting, really. This town was dying before I showed up. You were nothing. If only you had truly given yourselves over instead of plotting behind my back, then we could have had prosperity and power. Maestro steps on Logan's face, grinding it into the ground, yelling, if you are willing to follow, then you're going to need to obey. If you resist, this town will be burned to the ground. The time to decide is now. You either bow down before me, or... But before he could finish, several automatic rifles start shooting, and Angie leads a charge, yelling that they are done bowing down to him. The others focus their fire on Maestro, and Angie runs over to Logan, stating that she found it. Is it really going to work? She injects him, and he tells her, there's only one way to find out, isn't there? Once the Regenex enters Logan's veins, he shoots up, telling Angie, you need to get the people out of here now. He pops his claws, cutting through the chains, and he stands up, telling Maestro, it's time to put an end to this pathetic charade. He begins to hack away into Maestro, but Maestro knocks him back, stating, I have an offer for you. Follow if you're interested. So Maestro jumps off into the woods, and Logan follows the scent until he reaches a cave. He slowly walks in, and Maestro asks, this is what you wanted, isn't it? The time-traveling machine. There's nothing left in my world, so I came here. Such a disgusting, dead-end splinter of time. Anyway, my offer is this. Step into that time machine, go back home. Forget all about all of this, and we don't have to deal with each other. Logan asks, why don't we both just go back and leave these people alone? Maestro leans forward, telling him, pass. And he spins back, smashing the machine. Logan shouts for him to stop, and Maestro continues breaking the machine, stating, I gave you a chance to go back. Now you get nothing. Logan lashes at Maestro, but Maestro claps down on Logan's head. He stumbles back, asking, is that the best you got? So Maestro jumps into the air, and as he comes back down, Logan slices through his neck.
As a loud thud, as Maestro's massive head falls and hits the ground. Logan lands, readying himself to attack again, but as Maestro's body spurts out the green blood, it slumps and it falls over. He lets out a sigh of relief and begins to walk off, stating that he can't let himself die here. Not like this. Not like. But after a few steps, Logan's body gives out, and he falls face first into the snow, dead.
Thank you for watching today's episode of Comicstorian in Full Story. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this and who your favorite superhero is. And don't forget, you can check out the Comicstorian main channel to get daily videos. You can join us over at Comicstorian Movies, aka Absolutely, the podcast channel, to get our opinions on everything going on in the world of superhero movies, comic books, and video games. Or you can join us over at Mangastorian, where we talk about manga. And don't forget to click the link down below to support us further. This hot sauce is a hot sauce that we have created. Hatch and Jalapeno is a flavor that we created, which involves infusing whiskey into a hot sauce. No, it's non-alcoholic, and yes, it is FDA approved. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching today's video. I'll see you next time, right here.